Chapter 779. Just as Sun Luo left, two traces of extremely ancient aura force suddenly appeared in the world of the black hole and pressed down on the entire world. Ning Fan had just caught the Death God crystal. Before he could react, he was suppressed by the aura force. Being caught off guard, he was actually frozen on the spot by the aura force, unable to move. One of the aura force gave people a feeling like the vast starry sky. It was illusory and boundless, unfathomable and unfathomable. The other aura force gave people a domineering feeling. It was like the brightest and most dazzling sunlight. It was scorching, stinging and dazzling, making people unable to look at it directly. Both of these aura forces were the aura force of immortal emperors. Their ancient aura force was enough to make the entire galaxy tremble. It's the Divine Void Emperor duo. They have caught up to us. This is bad. Even though Master is strong, he isn't a match for them. I don't want to be locked up in the heavenly prison again. In the first level of the Cave of Time, Mutu's expression changed drastically after being intimidated by the aura force of the two emperors. Divine Void Emperor duo. How did they catch up to us so quickly? On the third level of the sacrificial altar, the three divine eyes were filled with fear. His body began to tremble uncontrollably. The Divine Void Emperor duo, huh? Ning Fan secretly activated the aura force of his ancestral grade demon blood and devil blood and slightly activated the ghost face spirit equipment's ability to resist the aura force. Only then did he manage to resist the aura force of the two emperors slightly and regain his mobility. Ning Fan's eyes became more and more solemn as he scanned the world of the black hole outside the cave with his spirit sense. The boundless world of the black hole was forcefully broken open by someone. From that opening, one could see the empty scenery of the quicksand star region outside. At the opening, two immortal emperors who were emitting seven-colored light shattered the world of the black hole and stepped into the world at the same time. Currently, Ning Fan was already a second-step cultivator. However, he still could not see the faces of the two immortal emperors clearly. He could only vaguely see that one of them was a white-haired old man who was standing on an illusory silver dragon soul. His face could not be seen clearly. That person was the Void Emperor. The other immortal emperor was clad in golden armor. His body was tall and sturdy. Even though Ning Fan could not see his face clearly, he seemed to be able to sense his domineering and arrogant gaze. This immortal emperor was standing on a golden cloud, and there were 6 golden orbs of light around him. One could vaguely sense that there was a treasure protecting him within the orbs of light, but one couldn't see what it was. This person was Emperor Shen Kong. Sun Luo, long time no see. How have you been? Emperor Shen Kong sneered and looked forward. In that direction, a crimson-haired figure slowly appeared. It was Senro, junior brother. The Void Emperor sighed and looked at Sun Luo, not knowing what to say. Sun Luo laughed coldly. He did not even look at Emperor Shen Kong and completely ignored him. His gaze met the Void Emperor's, and Sun Luo's expression turned even colder. Senior brother, are you here to capture me and bring me back to the heavenly prison? Junior brother, follow me back to the heaven prison. Don't kill any more. The Void Sovereign closed his eyes and let out a long sigh. Kill more. Heh, senior brother's words are quite interesting. The number of people that senior brother has killed might not be less than mine. When you kill people, you are enforcing justice on behalf of heaven. When I kill people, I am killing more. What a joke. Sun Luo laughed loudly, and his expression was full of disdain. The spatial monarch frowned and let out a sigh. Emperor Shen Kong snorted coldly and said to the Void Sovereign sternly, why bother talking nonsense with this evil creature? Just capture him and bring him back to the heaven prison. As soon as he finished speaking, Emperor Shen Kong took a step forward. As he took a step, a large amount of golden divine light swept out from his body and turned into a golden seal that pressed down on Sun Luo's head. The momentum of this golden seal was earth-shattering, and it created countless golden ravines in the void. Like a swimming dragon, it flew in all directions. Divine King Seal. I wasn't afraid of your Divine King Seal back then. Now, I won't be afraid either. Senluo's expression was cold, and he exuded endless chilliness. He took a huge step forward, and his body was surrounded by crimson rainbows. His red hair danced in the wind. He was an immortal king who had passed the fifth tribulation, while Emperor Shinkong was an immortal king who had passed the eighth tribulation. The difference in their cultivation was huge, but Senluo wasn't afraid of Shinkong at all. As the golden seal fell, Senluo didn't run or hide. He just waved his sleeves, and millions of crimson stars appeared in the void. The golden seal pulled in all the forces of the heaven and earth, and it turned into millions of crimson stars that fell on Senluo like rain. It gave off a deafening sound, and countless void storms were set off. The power of each golden prince smashing down was comparable to the power of a low-level cultivation planet exploding. While bathed in the crimson starlight, Senluo's eyes remained cold. Although the golden seal was powerful, his crimson star's self-recovery ability was stronger. The Divine King Seal couldn't hurt him. Senluo smiled disdainfully. He suddenly raised his hand and grabbed the void in front of him. The force of this grab caused an unimaginable collapse of the void. The millions of golden seal shadows in the void collapsed and scattered. The Divine King Seal is just so. Senluo said disdainfully. Shameless boasting. Emperor Shinkong's spell was broken, and his expression turned extremely ugly. He waved his sleeves angrily, and the 6 golden balls of light around him revealed their true forms. They were 6 golden skulls. These 6 golden skulls were refined from the skulls of cultivators. They were at least the skulls of 3rd or 4th tribulation celestial kings. There were naturally skulls of 5th tribulation celestial kings as well. One of the skulls was even refined from the skull of a sub-emperor. Emperor Shinkong raised his hand and pointed. A golden ray of light shot out from his finger, which split into 6 and entered the 6 skulls. At this moment, the shadow of a huge golden tombstone appeared behind Emperor Shinkong. The appearance of the tombstone was somewhat similar to the steel of sun and moon, but it wasn't exactly the same. The 6 skulls flashed and turned into 6 withered skeleton cultivators in golden robes. These 6 withered skeleton cultivators were all celestial kings, and their cultivation ranged from 3rd tribulation to sub-emperor. Once the 6 of them appeared, they immediately charged towards Senluo emotionlessly. Tombstone Technique. This technique is one of the strongest spells of the Divine Space Scripture. Unfortunately, with your aptitude, I'm afraid you will never be able to cultivate this technique to the realm of Summon Emperor Bone. The 6 King Bones is already your limit. The disdain in Senluo's eyes intensified. He suddenly opened his mouth and spat out 8 rays of blood light. The 8 rays of blood light circled around him and revealed their true forms, which were the shadows of 8 blood-red skulls. These 8 blood-red skulls were the skulls of sub-emperors. At this moment, a huge shadow of a blood-red tombstone appeared behind Senluo. The 8 skulls of sub-emperors shone with blood light and turned into 8 withered skeleton cultivators in blood-red robes. These 8 people were all sub-emperors. When the 8 of them joined forces, they could even fight against a 6th tribulation celestial emperor. Impossible. You have never received the orthodox inheritance of the Divine Space Scripture. How could you cultivate this technique to the realm of 8 King Bones? The Shin Space Thearch's eyes widened in shock as he looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. The Void Thearch sighed again. He knew that his junior brother's aptitude was high and that he was the best in the Divine Void Realm. After the ancestor of the Divine Void Realm, there was no one who could surpass him. Senluo had not received the orthodox inheritance of the Divine Space Scripture, but even the Tao of Divine Space Thearch of the Divine Space Thearch was not as powerful as Senluo. Senluo had received the orthodox inheritance of the divine space scripture. After the ancestor of the divine void realm, no one could surpass Senluo in the Tao of void. This person's aptitude was too high and shocking. If it was not for the fact that he could not get rid of his obsession, he would have already broken through and become an emperor. Even though he had not entered the sixth tribulation of eternity and had not entered the emperor realm, Senluo's strength was enough to sweep away all six tribulation celestial emperors. His realm was the same as the great elder of the slaughter hall, the Nether Sea immortal king. However, his strength was not comparable to Nether Sea. The 6 golden-robed immortal kings and the 8 blood-robed quasi-emperors fought against each other, and soon, the outcome of the battle was decided. The 8 people summoned by Senluo had won. The figures of the golden-robed immortal kings were crushed by the blood-robed quasi-emperors. The Shin Space Thearch's expression became uglier and the murderous intent in his golden eyes became sharper. He opened his mouth and spat out a golden flame pearl. With a change of hand seal, the golden flame pearl immediately turned into billions of golden flames and suns and bombarded Senluo. Connate treasure. Fire immunity pearl. Back then, you used this to sneak attack me and I was injured badly. Now, this thing can't hurt me. Roar. Senluo suddenly raised his head and let out an earth-shattering roar. He did not use much magic power in this roar. What he used the most was his murderous aura and a lifetime of demonic thoughts. Endless blood-red flames spread out from under Senluo's feet and swept across the void in all directions, turning into a sea of blood-red flames. The blood-red flames were the flames of his murderous aura and they were formed by Senluo's killing. His roar carried a blood-red sound circle that shook the void in all directions. The crazy roar and countless blood-red ripples reverberated throughout heaven and earth. At this moment, the demonic thoughts on Senluo's body were monstrous and his aura was terrifying. At this moment, Senluo's eyes looked down on everything. His demonic roar contained a great magical power that could incinerate and melt everything. Under this demonic roar, even the starry sky would tremble. Even heaven and earth would have to yield to it. Circles of blood-red ripples swept across the fire immunity pearl. Every time they swept across, the fire immunity pearl would tremble violently and let out an earth-shattering roar. A crack appeared on it. After a few breaths, the fire immunity pearl shook violently and broke into 2 halves from the middle. It was almost destroyed. The demonic roar still reverberated in the void for a long time. The Shin Space Thearch turned pale with fright and hurriedly formed a hand seal to retrieve the fire immunity pearl. He was afraid that the fire immunity pearl would be completely destroyed and could no longer be repaired. At this moment, his ears were still reverberating with a buzzing sound. The demonic roar entered his body and messed up his breathing. He was forced to retreat a few hundred steps in the void before he could stabilize his body. Every step he took would cause the entire heaven and earth to tremble. Shin Space, you alone won't be able to take him down. The Void Thearch sighed. He rode the silver dragon and flew to the side of the Shin Space Thearch. His murky eyes suddenly shone brightly. With a wave of his sleeves, the demonic roar that filled the entire heaven and earth was dispersed. The Void Thearch had finally decided to join the battle. Although he and the Shin Space Thearch seemed to be united, they were actually divided. However, when it came to matters of right and wrong, the Shin Space Thearch and the Shin Space Thearch had always been on the same side. He had the best relationship with his junior brother. However, because of what happened in the past, the crack between them could no longer be mended and his junior brother would never turn back. The only thing he could do was to forcefully take down Senluo and send him back to the heaven prison. Only then would he be able to avoid making more mistakes. Forget it. Let's work together and capture this evil creature back to the heaven prison. The Shin Space Thearch snorted coldly. The current Senluo was much stronger than he was in the past. The various divine abilities of the Shin Space Thearch were restrained by Senluo. Although his cultivation base was high, it was hard for him to make full use of the advantage of his realm. It would not be easy for him to take down Sun Luo alone. However, if the God Void the Arch and the Shen Space the Arch joined forces, no matter how strong Sun Luo was, he would still be defeated. Senior brother, you must capture me back to the heaven prison. Is that so? Sun Luo said coldly. Yes. The Void the Arch sighed. However, his eyes were even more resolute. Hearing this, the corner of Sun Luo's mouth curled up and he revealed an evil sneer. Heaven prison, I will go back. However, not now and not in this way. If I am not willing, even if the two of you come together, what can you do to me? Emperor technique, dark prison. Sun Luo suddenly raised his finger and pointed at the God Void the Arch and the Shen Space the Arch. The endless black hole world collapsed completely at this moment and turned into countless black fragments. After the fragments collapsed, they reformed and turned into two black cages. They were airtight and sealed the God Void the Arch and the Shen Space the Arch in the cages. What? This bastard has even successfully cultivated the Void Scripture's dark prison technique. The God Void the Arch exclaimed in shock. Even the Void the Arch revealed a look of disbelief. The two Thearchs simultaneously attacked and tried to break the black cages imprisoning the two of them. However, they discovered that even with their cultivation, they were unable to break the cages in a short period of time. The dark prison isolated the two of them from the rest of the world. This dark prison technique could be used to attack and imprison powerful enemies. When used for defense, it could even block the attacks of an 8 Tribulation Immortal Emperor. The two Thearchs continued to use their techniques but were unable to break the dark prison technique. Naturally, with the defense of the dark prison technique, Sun Luo could not harm the two of them. Seeing that the two Thearchs were trapped, Sun Luo sneered and swallowed the entire quicksand star sea into his stomach. At this moment, the black hole world had collapsed, and the final step of the Sun Luo plan was nearing completion. It was time to return to the God Void the Arch. Taking out the East Sea Star Plate, Sun Luo's blood-red eyes flashed coldly. He identified a direction and turned into a shocking blood-red light that charged toward the East Sea Star region. Along the way, the domain-locking formations of the star regions were all broken by Sun Luo. Any cultivation planet that blocked his way was shattered by Sun Luo's fist. Any cultivator that blocked his way was directly smashed into a bloody pulp by Sun Luo's light. The life immortals and perfected immortals along the way had already sensed Sun Luo's monstrous demonic aura and were all horrified. In the eastern sky, some thought-shattering old monsters, celestial sovereigns, and celestial kings that had lived for a very long time were horrified when they sensed Sun Luo's aura. Those that recognized Sun Luo's aura and weren't celestial emperors all revealed expressions of fear. Sun Luo was a devil that caused chaos in the eastern sky 45 million years ago. With the power of one person, this devil covered half of the God Void the Arch and destroyed 107 high-grade star regions. During that era, 1/10 of the perfected immortals in the eastern sky died at his hands. The number of life immortals and first-step cultivators he killed was innumerable. The number of cultivation planets he destroyed was even more innumerable. He was still alive. He was still alive. There was a dimensional world inside Sun Luo Immortal King's body. The entire quicksand star sea was swallowed by him. Ning Fan's face was filled with astonishment. In the past, he only thought that Sun Luo was very strong and was comparable to the Nether Sea Immortal King. However, he didn't know that Sun Luo's strength was actually far stronger than the Nether Sea Immortal King. He had even surpassed many 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperors and was comparable to the 7th Tribulation Immortal Emperors. Even the Divine Void Immortal Emperors could not capture Sun Luo in one go. Instead, their abilities were broken by Sun Luo and they were trapped in the quicksand star region. In that case, the second Jade Slip could not cause too much trouble to Sun Luo at all. Only the third Jade Slip could summon the Slaughter Emperor and subdue Sun Luo. Fortunately, judging from the current situation, Sun Luo did not have any killing intent towards Ning Fan. The two of them used each other and lived in harmony. The various abilities of Sun Luo replayed in his mind. Ning Fan let out a devil roar and his eyes were filled with astonishment. He always felt that Sun Luo's abilities had many things that were worth comprehending. While he was pondering, Sun Luo's displeased voice suddenly resounded in his ears. "Junior. Have you seen enough? If you have, quickly refine the Death God Crystal and help me fight the Divine Void Immortal Realm." After being reminded by Sun Luo, Ning Fan remembered that he still had a piece of Death God Crystal in his hand. Yes, his top priority was to refine the Death God Crystal instead of comprehending Sun Luo's abilities and secret techniques. He did not have a good impression of the Divine Void Pavilion because of the poison in Little Demoness' body. He did not have any opinion on Sun Luo's plan to destroy the Divine Void Immortal Realm and attack the Heavenly Prison. There was only one thing in his mind, to refine the Death God Crystal and help Sun Luo accomplish his goal. After that, he would ask Sun Luo to cure Little Demoness' poison. He did not have a good impression of Sun Luo nor did he have a bad impression of him. He did not want to get involved in the grudge between Sun Luo and the Divine Void Immortal Realm. He was just a bystander. After refining the Death God Crystal, make some fireworks for me. I want those with lotus patterns. Sun Luo ordered again. All right. Then, he swallowed the crystal of the Death God and slowly refined it. At the side, the three gods who were chained swallowed their saliva. Their hearts were filled with lingering fear when they saw Ning Fan swallowing the Death God Crystal. He had consumed the Death God Crystal twice. He understood how dangerous and painful the process of refining it was. This kid is just a ghost profound realm expert after all. Perhaps he can't withstand the heart-devouring myriad deities of the Death God Crystal. The three gods shook their heads in disdain. They looked at Ning Fan quietly, trying to see the pain on his face and hear the wails from his mouth. However, they were disappointed. After consuming the Death God Crystal, Ning Fan closed his eyes and sat cross-legged without saying a word. He did not show any emotion nor did he make any sound. It was as if he had never consumed the Death God Crystal. How is this possible? The pain of the heart-devouring myriad deities is so dangerous that even I can't bear it. How can he endure it so calmly? The astonishment in the three gods' eyes grew. They could feel that the ancient god aura pressure in Ning Fan's body had begun to increase. In his mind, Ning Fan was standing in a world that was reversed from the normal world. It was a strange world that he did not know. The sky was below and the earth was above. He was walking in this world. It was desolate and dead silent. All of a sudden, countless killing intent came from the end of the earth. From all directions, there were countless giants who were as tall as the sky. They were walking towards him with ancient footsteps. Each of the giants had a black hole in their chest. Their hearts were no longer there. Heart. Give me your heart. One by one, the giants came from all directions and approached Ning Fan. All of a sudden, a giant rotten hand broke out from the ground and reached out towards Ning Fan. Chapter 780. All of a sudden, a giant rotten hand broke out from the ground and reached out towards Ning Fan. A putrid grey chi spread out from the giant hand, making one feel nauseous just by smelling it. A strong gust of wind blew and the grey chi turned into a giant grey dragon. It opened its mouth and swallowed Ning Fan. Ning Fan's body turned into a wisp of green smoke and disappeared from his original spot. At the next moment, he appeared in the sky. He raised his palm and pressed it against the grey dragon. Then, he looked down at the ground with a grim expression. The ground kept cracking and giant rotten corpses crawled out from the ground. All of the rotten corpses had black holes in their chests. None of them had a heart. Each of the rotten corpses had an extremely dense ancient god chi. They were the corpses of ancient gods. Among the group of ancient corpses, there was an ancient god corpse with dragon horns on its head. Its body was surrounded by dragon-shaped gray chi. Its aura force was like a mountain, carrying an unusually vast pressure. It was completely different from the corpses of ordinary ancient gods. Roar! The giant corpses crawled out from the ground and roared at the sky. Their voices were filled with endless resentment. Some of the giant corpses began to wave their fists at the sky. Heaven and earth were instantly filled with countless ancient divine lights. Without any hesitation, Ning Fan turned into green smoke again and evaded the fists. His eyes were fixed on the ancient corpse with dragon horns and he remained silent. All of a sudden, several spatial cracks appeared in the sky. Giant rotten hands reached out from the cracks and grabbed at Ning Fan when he least expected it. Among the countless giant hands, there were countless traces of gray chi which turned into the demon form of a gray fire sparrow. It attacked Ning Fan ferociously like the wind. Ning Fan's expression changed slightly. Without saying a word, he summoned the memory-severing Dao sword. The sword produced countless illusory sword lights and killed the gray demonic sparrow. Then, he raised his hand and cut off the countless giant rotten hands. After a series of loud noises, countless giant hands were cut into pieces by the sword lights and exploded into countless traces of gray chi. Then, the giant corpses whose arms were cut off walked out from the spatial cracks one after another. They roared at Ning Fan furiously as if they resented him for cutting off their arms. Among this group of giant corpses, there was an ancient god corpse with gray fire wings. Its aura force was extremely vast, which was completely different from ordinary ancient corpses. On the ground in all directions, countless giant rotten corpses were approaching Ning Fan step by step. In just a few breaths, the ancient corpses in the distance had all closed in. Among this group of ancient corpses, there were two giant ancient gods with exceptionally vast auras. One of them had the head of a tiger and the lower body of a human. The other person was a fat giant who carried a huge turtle shell on his back. Underground, in the sky, in the cracks in space, there were ancient god corpses everywhere. However, only the four ancient corpses could give him a sense of danger. Ancient dragon horn corpse. Flamewing ancient corpse. Tiger-headed ancient corpses. Ancient tortoise-shelled corpse. Among these ancient god corpses, most of them were one-apertured ancient gods, a small number of them were two-apertured ancient gods, and a small number of them were three-apertured ancient gods. Most of the ancient god corpses with one aperture possessed void fragmentation realm cultivation base. Most of the ancient god corpses had the cultivation of life immortals. Most of the ancient god corpses with three orifices had the cultivation of the crossing truth realm. There were only four ancient corpses here, and they were the corpses of three-apertured ancient gods. Ning Fan's figure flickered continuously in the sky. He used his spirit sense to scan the surroundings and his expression turned grim. After a rough count, he found out that there were 10,000 one-apertured ancient gods, 81 two-apertured ancient gods and 4 three-apertured ancient gods. 10,000 one-apertured ancient god corpses waved their fists at Ning Fan at the same time. Divine light dazzled the world and the light from their fists shook the heavens. Large areas of the hollow space collapsed one after another. The ground could not stop trembling. For some unknown reason, the 81 two-apertured ancient gods and the 4 three-apertured ancient gods did not immediately join in the attack. Since they were just attacks from one-apertured ancient gods, Ning Fan was not afraid no matter how many ancient gods there were. Ning Fan raised his hand and summoned the memory-severing Dao sword. He made a hand seal and the sword turned into 108,000 sword shadows, setting up a sword formation. Rays of illusory sword light began to rampage and kill in the sword formation. Groups of one-apertured ancient gods were killed by the sword light, exploding into traces of gray chi. Every time an ancient god was killed, a trace of gray chi would fly out from the black hole in the ancient god's chest and enter Ning Fan's body. Once the gray chi entered his body, it would rush to his heart, causing an excruciating pain as if his heart was being torn apart. At the same time, it would deprive his heart of its life force bit by bit. Ning Fan used the illusory sword formation to kill all one-apertured ancient gods. Immediately, 10,000 traces of grey qi appeared in his body. Boundless pain assaulted him. Ning Fan's breathing became sluggish. His face immediately turned abnormally red and his qi began to become slightly chaotic. His heart was tainted by countless traces of grey qi. At the moment when the grey qi appeared, Ning Fan lost control of his mind. He almost wanted to break free from this illusory realm. This was one of the reasons why countless people failed to open up their divine apertures after consuming the death god's crystal. A fragile heart could not resist the corrosion of the grey qi at all. The strength of one's heart had nothing to do with one's cultivation level. It was closely related to one's ancient god realm. Cultivators who were not ancient gods would immediately be corroded by the grey qi once they come into contact with it. They would be forced to break free from the illusory realm forcefully, causing the refinement of the death god's crystal to fail. Even ordinary one-apertured ancient gods would not be able to resist the corrosion of 10,000 traces of grey qi at the same time. Those who are heartless, will die. Those who are heartless, will die. Those who are heartless, will die. We are unwilling to accept this. The remaining 81 two-apertured ancient gods' corpses and 4 three-apertured ancient gods' corpses roared furiously. Ning Fan's mind gradually lost control. The illusory realm in front of him split into 2 and then into 4. As the number of changes increased, he could no longer see anything clearly. Heaven and earth seemed to be shaking, and everything began to blur. At this moment it was not the heaven and earth or the illusory realm that was wavering. It was Ning Fan's heart. At this moment it was also Ning Fan's heart that might suffer the backlash. The roars of the ancient gods' corpses echoed in his ears. Suddenly, Ning Fan realized that the grey qi in his body was growing bit by bit. The amount of grey qi was increasing and it contained endless negative emotions. Resentment, anger, unwillingness, jealousy, greed, fear, despair, sorrow. Ning Fan vaguely had an epiphany. His eyes turned sharp and he shouted coldly. His divine heart emitted countless rays of divine light, slightly dispersing part of the grey qi. His eyes regained some clarity. As expected, this grey qi is the combination of all the negative emotions of the fallen ancient gods. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold and he muttered to himself. To open the first aperture of an ancient god, he relied on the opportunity given by Ancestor Yu. It was not the right way. To open the first aperture, he had to endure the pain of severing his heart for 1,000 years. After that, he opened the first heart aperture and his heart became even more persevering. He was no longer afraid of any pain. Even though he used the ancient god Heart Lotus to build a good foundation for opening the second aperture, he was still on the verge of danger. Fortunately, he was calm and decisive in the face of danger. He abandoned the excess ancient god heart force to ensure the success of opening the heart aperture. After opening the second aperture, his heart became calmer. The more serious the situation was, the more he could calm himself down and not lose his composure. The third aperture was the divine aperture that Ning Fan was trying to open by consuming the death god crystal. The process was filled with endless negative emotions. Those were all the emotions left behind by the 10,000 ancient gods after they lost their divine hearts. I must eliminate all these negative emotions. The divine light on Ning Fan's body became stronger and stronger. That divine light came from his heart. He was a two-aperture ancient god. His heart was already strong enough to suppress all these negative emotions. The grey qi in his divine heart gradually disappeared amidst a sizzling sound. The grey qi was not expelled from Ning Fan's body. Instead, it was forcefully refined by him. Why would he be afraid of these negative emotions? Every time he refined a bit of grey qi, his divine heart would become stronger. After refining 10,000 traces of grey qi, a gray light spot slowly appeared above his divine heart. That light spot was right beside the second divine aperture. That spot was the location to open the third divine aperture. I can obtain gray chi by killing the ancient god corpses in the illusory realm. Refining this gray chi might increase the ancient god heart force and help me open the heart aperture. All of this is just a possibility. It's not absolute. Ning Fan's eyes were now completely clear. He understood the key to refining the death god crystal. He already understood why this death god heart could help people open the heart aperture. Killing 10,000 ancient gods and extracting their hearts was not as simple as extracting their heart force. Instead, one had to kill these ancient gods using incomparably cruel methods, causing their hearts to be filled with all kinds of negative emotions before they died. The stronger the divine heart of an ancient god was, the less likely it was for them to have negative emotions. However, once negative emotions are produced, those emotions would be even more ingrained and indelible. It would make people unable to extricate themselves and sink deep into the mud. Killing these ancient gods, extracting their hearts, and refining them into crystals, the death god crystal was the amalgamation of countless negative emotions. When a cultivator consumes it to resist the negative emotions within, it could temper their heart and improve the power of their divine heart. If the grade of the death god crystal is too low, it would not have much of an effect. If the grade of the death god crystal is too high and the negative emotions are too strong, the cultivator who consumes the crystal would not be able to resist it. Hence, the refinement process would usually fail. Mu-Tu and the three gods had failed to refine the crystal because they could not resist the negative emotions. As for Sun Luo, it was because even though he was not an ancient god, he had always been obsessed with evil thoughts and had an extremely tough will. What he refined was just a second-grade death god crystal which was far from enough to open the heart aperture. The grade of the death god crystal that Ning Fan obtained was neither too high nor too low. It was just right for him to use. The power of the gray chi could make him lose himself for a moment, but it was not enough to make him sink completely. It was still within the range of his refinement ability. Standing in the sky, Ning Fan scanned his surroundings with his spirit sense. When he saw the remaining ancient god corpses, his eyes flashed with determination. The negative emotions of 10,001 aperture ancient gods were not enough to help him open the third heart aperture. He needed more gray chi. At the moment when Ning Fan scanned them with his spirit sense, the 81 two-aperture ancient gods moved. These two-aperture ancient gods at the Ghost Profound realm let out deafening roars. Some of them flew into the sky while some of them were already in the sky. All of them were closing in on Ning Fan. At a certain moment, the 81 ancient gods suddenly stretched out their palms in unison. The gray chi around their bodies condensed into longbows which were held in their palms. Amidst the thunderous roars, the 81 ancient gods drew their bows and released their arrows. 81 whistling giant arrows made of gray light pierced through the sky towards Ning Fan. Each of the gray arrow light had the destructive power of a Ghost Profound realm attack. Among the 81 arrows, 6 or 7 of them even had the destructive power of a peak Ghost Profound realm attack. The arrows fell at the same time. Gray chi covered the sky. This piece of land that was already upside down was once again turned upside down. Before the arrows could get close to him, Ning Fan immediately lifted one of his feet and stepped on the sky. Immediately, a huge ravine with lead-colored light appeared in the sky. Within the ravine, a gigantic lead-colored lotus grew. At the next moment, millions of lotus shadows appeared in the sky. Divine light illuminated the world. The arrows bombarded the defense of the three flowers but failed to break it. To be honest, the strength of Ning Fan's three flowers technique was not enough to defend against the joint attacks of 81 life immortal realm experts. However, in this illusory realm, Ning Fan's three flowers technique seemed to have undergone some changes. The natal lead lotus that he summoned was the human lotus. It was actually born from the countless ravines. It was a humongous object that was as large as a mountain. Unknowingly, the defense of his three flowers converging prominence technique had greatly improved. When his first flower was cultivated to the great perfection realm, it was enough to defend against the destructive power of an early truth-crossing realm expert. However, at this moment, under the full defense of this technique, even a mid-truth-crossing realm expert might not be able to destroy or break through the lotus shadows that filled the sky. The power of the three flowers converging prominence technique has increased. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with surprise at first. Then, he seemed to have understood something. The reason why the technique's power increased might be related to the act of consuming the ancient god heart lotus. The three flowers converging prominence was a divine technique of the ancient gods. It was a necessary technique to pluck the ancient god heart lotus. It was not impossible that consuming the ancient god heart lotus could increase the power of the technique. While Ning Fan was surprised by the increase in the power of the three flowers technique, all of the ancient gods' corpses revealed a look of terror the moment they saw the lead lotus. The era where these ancient gods fell was too long ago. It was so long ago that the three flowers technique had not been created by a powerful ancient god yet. During that era, an ancient god appeared out of nowhere and created the three flowers converging prominence technique. This ancient god was cruel by nature. He loved to kill other divine races the most. He used the divine hearts of others to refine the death god crystal. His title was Death Ancestor. The Death Ancestor was the murderer who snatched the hearts of these ancient gods. Even though these ancient gods' corpses had lost their spiritual intelligence, they still instinctively feared the Death Ancestor. That fear was evoked by Ning Fan's three flowers technique. Run, the moment they saw the lotus shadows that filled the sky, the 81 2 apertures ancient gods and 6 3 apertures ancient gods turned and fled without exception. Chapter 781. Ning Fan was slightly surprised when he saw the remaining 2 and 3 apertures of the god corpses fleeing without putting up a fight. Millions of lotus shadows coiled around his body. In a flash, he chased after them. In order to open his third heart aperture, he needed the grey chi inside these god corpses. The enemy had 81 life immortal realm experts and 4 Dujin realm experts. If Ning Fan were to fight them head-on, it would not be easy for him to kill all of them. Now that these god corpses fled without putting up a fight, it couldn't be better for Ning Fan. After chasing after the god corpses, Ning Fan raised his hand and summoned the memory-severing Dao sword, creating large areas of illusory sword formations to block the path of the god corpses. Those 2 orifices god corpses with weak cultivation bases died under Ning Fan's illusory sword formations one after another. In those layers of illusions, they saw their own memories when they were still alive. Happy, sad, fearful. In the end, they died in the illusions. The 2 orifices god corpses were killed by the sword shadows one after another. Traces of grey chi went into Ning Fan's body. These 2 orifices god corpses were in a panic. They did not defend themselves against Ning Fan's attacks at all. They just instinctively ran for their lives, afraid of the lotus shadows around Ning Fan. Even the peak ghost profound realm 2 orifices god corpses gradually died in Ning Fan's hands. Only 4 3 orifices god corpses with different appearances were still running for their lives. After killing 81 2 orifices god corpses, 81 traces of grey chi appeared in Ning Fan's body. These grey chi were condensed from the negative emotions of 2 orifices ancient gods. A single trace of grey chi was equivalent to hundreds of traces of 1 orifice ancient god's grey chi. When the grey chi entered his heart, Ning Fan felt a sharp pain. His traveling light immediately became stagnant and he almost fell off the clouds. Countless layers of illusions appeared in front of his eyes. In these illusions, there was a giant in black robes who was holding a sickle. He was cruelly slaughtering the ancient gods one after another, seizing their hearts and refining them into the death god crystal. This giant in black robes was surrounded by countless lotus shadows of 3 colors. He was called the Death Ancestor by the ancient gods. The aura of this giant in black robes was terrifyingly strong. Even though it was not as strong as immortal sovereign Zido, it was much stronger than immortal Emperor Mo Zhong whom Ning Fan had met before. The Death Ancestor. He is the one who refined the Death God Crystal. Ning Fan's expression changed slightly. He gritted his teeth and activated his heart force. Divine light shone around his body, dispelling the illusions one after another. His eyes regained their clarity. After stabilizing his chi, Ning Fan used the Black Devil escape art continuously in a flash of light and continued his pursuit. After absorbing the grey chi of 81 two apertures ancient gods, Ning Fan had already opened up half of his third heart orifice. Ning Fan knew that as long as he could kill the 4 apertures ancient gods in front of him and seize the grey chi in their bodies, he would have a chance to open up his third heart orifice. Sensing that Ning Fan was still chasing after them, the 4 god corpses suddenly changed their escaping light and fled in 4 different directions. Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly serious. Then, he identified one of them and chased after him. He was chasing the tiger-headed god corpse with the weakest aura among the 4 god corpses. It was obvious that this tiger-headed god's corpse cultivated a godly cultivation method with the body of a monster. Because his monster cultivation method hadn't completely dissipated, the tiger head didn't disappear. His divine path cultivation method was not pure, so he was the weakest of the 4 corpses. Although he was at the early stage of the crossing truth realm, his strength was about the same as Sun Yen. Seeing that Ning Fan was chasing after him, the tiger-headed divine corpse's expression was filled with terror and he fled even faster. Ning Fan's eyes turned grim. He continuously used the Black Devil escape for more than 10 times and forcefully arrived in front of the tiger-headed divine corpse. Then, he pointed a sword ray at his finger and split the void space apart, blocking the divine corpse's escape light. At the moment he blocked the tiger-headed divine corpse, Ning Fan summoned his true body's Tao image without saying a word. The day suddenly turned into night and the sky was filled with 7 stars. The black and white heaven holding imprint instantly condensed in his palm. Without any hesitation, he directly slammed it at the tiger-headed divine corpse. A palm imprint that blotted out the sky descended. The tiger-headed divine corpse's expression changed drastically. With a sway of his body, he created 1 million illusory figures which collided with the gigantic palm imprint. This was a divine ability that used the illusory figures as a human wall for defense. The 1 million illusory figures were destroyed by the palm imprint one after another, reducing the power of the heaven-holding imprint by 50%. The remaining palm imprint continued to fall from the sky. As for the tiger-headed divine corpse, he did not have much magic power left after using the illusory body defense technique. Under the threat of danger, the tiger-headed divine corpse's body swayed and disappeared from his original spot. In an instant, he appeared 1 million li away. That palm imprint also disappeared in a flash. In the blink of an eye, it appeared 1 million li away from the head of the tiger-headed divine corpse. The edge of the heaven-holding imprint faintly glowed with a faint purple-golden light. The tiger-headed divine corpse did not expect that he would not be able to avoid the palm imprint. He let out a miserable shriek and was struck by the palm imprint. Then, he fell from the sky with severe injuries. On the ground, large patches of black flames had already appeared unknowingly. As soon as the tiger-headed divine corpse fell to the ground, it was immediately engulfed in the sea of flames. It let out an earth-shattering shriek. Ning Fan followed closely behind it. He descended slightly and changed his hand seal. The black flames immediately condensed into a gigantic black cauldron, trapping the tiger-headed divine corpse in it and burning it desperately. Gradually, the cries of the tiger-headed divine corpse stopped. With a loud bang, the body of the tiger-headed divine corpse in the cauldron collapsed and turned into countless traces of grey chi. Ning Fan opened his mouth and swallowed all of the grey chi into his body. Then, he retracted the black flames and sat cross-legged on the ground to refine the grey chi. His third heart acupoint had been slightly opened. Ning Fan could clearly feel that the recovery speed of his magic power was getting faster and faster. The heart of an ancient god could not only increase the cultivation level of an ancient god by a few times or even tens of times, but it could also help an ancient god recover their magic power quickly. Currently, Ning Fan was close to opening his third heart acupoint. The recovery speed of his magic power was almost comparable to the recovery speed when he consumed pills in the past. Ning Fan had consumed a lot of his magic power to kill the tiger-headed divine corpse. After his magic power had recovered to its peak state, he used the rain technique in this illusory world and began to search for the whereabouts of the other 3 divine corpses. Ning Fan stood still in the drizzle for a long time and found out the location of the 3 divine corpses. The Dragonhorn divine corpse was hiding in a barren forest. The Flaming Winged divine corpse was hiding in the crater of a volcano. The tortoise-shelled divine corpse was hiding in a huge swamp. After pondering for a moment, Ning Fan flew towards the huge swamp where the tortoise-shelled divine corpse was hiding. 10 days later, Ning Fan left the huge swamp and headed towards the direction of the Flaming Winged divine corpse. 1 month later, Ning Fan walked out of the barren forest where the Dragonhorn divine corpse was hiding. Another month later, Ning Fan successfully killed the Dragonhorn divine corpse. These divine corpses with 3 orifices were not weak. All of them had a cultivation base comparable to the early Crossing Truth realm. However, they had already grown fearful of Ning Fan, which greatly reduced their combat power. Therefore, it was not difficult for them to divide and conquer them. The 4 divine corpses were killed by Ning Fan one after another. The illusory realm was then destroyed. On the 7-pointed star sacrificial altar, Ning Fan was as still as a mountain. His third heart orifice was about to open. At this moment, a vortex seemed to have formed in his heart. Traces of magic power were being produced from that vortex. That vortex was called the heart origin. It was the source of the ancient god's heart. Only 3 orifices ancient gods could open their heart origin. Once they opened their heart origin, their magic power would be doubled. The magic power of second-step cultivators would flow through their immortal veins and be stored in their primordial spirit in their dantian. To 3 orifices ancient gods, the divine heart that had opened its heart origin was equivalent to another container for magic power. It could contain the same amount of magic power as the primordial spirit. The third heart orifice was opening and stabilizing bit by bit. The heart origin was constantly producing magic power. The bottleneck of the mid-ghost profound realm was also breaking through bit by bit. The 3 deities were watching Ning Fan from the side. The astonishment in their eyes became more and more obvious. They could clearly feel that the ancient god Qi on Ning Fan's body had almost reached the 3rd aperture realm. It was extremely powerful. It was not something that they who had just opened their half-aperture realm could contend against. This young man has succeeded in refining his crystal. Not long after he opened the 2nd heart orifice, he actually opened the 3rd heart orifice. The 3 deities muttered to themselves in disbelief. He had heard from his master that it was not easy to open the 3rd heart orifice even in the era of the ancient gods. To the ancient gods, the 1st heart orifice was just considered as the entry point. The 2nd heart orifice was just considered as the foundation building. The 3rd heart orifice was extremely difficult to open. That was why he was not that shocked when he saw Ning Fan opening the 2nd heart orifice. However, when he saw Ning Fan opening the 3rd heart orifice, he could not help but feel astonished. A 3 orifices ancient god with 8 times the speed of magic power increase, with the help of 3 heart orifices, Ning Fan's future was naturally limitless. Bang! Suddenly, a loud sound came from Ning Fan's body, startling the 3 deities. Large patches of divine light emerged from Ning Fan's body. Ning Fan sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes without saying a word. He looked like an ancient god. At this moment, Ning Fan's 3rd heart orifice was completely opened. His cultivation base had finally broken through to the mid-ghost profound realm. The upper limit of Ning Fan's magic power was already higher than ordinary people. After breaking through to the mid-ghost profound realm, the amount of magic power in his primordial spirit was comparable to that of a peak ghost profound realm cultivator. Now that he had opened the heart origin, Ning Fan's magic power had doubled. The total amount of magic power in his body was not any weaker than Sun Yan's in the past. Even though his cultivation base had yet to reach the true crossing realm, his magic power had already reached the true crossing realm. In the illusory realm of his mind, Ning Fan had spent several months to kill all the divine corpses. However, in the outside world, only the time it takes for an incense stick to burn had passed. After withdrawing the divine light around his body and opening his eyes, Ning Fan stood up. When he sensed the vastness of his magic power, he could not help but nod in satisfaction. Currently, he was already a three-orifices ancient god, a mid-ghost profound realm cultivator. His magic power was comparable to an ordinary true crossing realm cultivator. This trip to the quicksand star region was not in vain. The opportunities he had were indeed great. Of course, there were also many dangers. Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. He did not forget that he was currently following behind Sen Luo and accompanying him in his madness. Sen Luo was a madman. Although there were many opportunities following behind him, there were also many dangers. A moment of carelessness just now had caused his ancient devil puppet to be severely damaged. If he were to be careless again, he might even lose his life. Oh. You've opened the third heart orifice. Very good. If that's the case, it's enough for me to have you as the vessel for my ancient god power. I don't need these three inferior vessels anymore. Suddenly, a cold voice resounded on the seven-pointed star altar. It was Sen Luo's voice. At the same time, the remaining ancient god power on the seven-pointed star altar flowed into Ning Fan's divine heart. As for the ancient god power that was originally stored in the bodies of the three divine beings, it was also transferred to Ning Fan's body. Sen Luo's body contained half of the quicksand ancestor's divine power while Ning Fan also contained half of it. Sen Luo relied on his cultivation base while Ning Fan relied on his ancient god heart orifice. When the ancient god power flowed into his divine heart, Ning Fan did not resist. Since he had promised to be Sen Luo's vessel for his divine power, he would not go back on his words. He only hoped that Sen Luo would fulfill his promise and cure the little demoness of her poison. The scenery in front of him suddenly changed. Ning Fan could feel a powerful divine ability that was moving him to another place. After a few breaths, Ning Fan left the seven-pointed star altar and appeared in a world filled with twinkling starlight. This place is... Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He had some guesses but also some disbelief. This is my divine star space. The star you are on is the ninth star in my glabella. You can see the scenery of the outside world from here. If necessary, you can even help me in a battle. You can make fireworks for me here. Of course, you can also comprehend my Tao of Void here. Sen Luo's cold voice resounded in Ning Fan's ears, confirming his guess. This place was indeed Sen Luo's divine star space. Moreover, it was where Sen Luo's strongest star was located, the ninth star. This place was filled with Sen Luo's divine ability and Tao power. In this place, Ning Fan could feel the Tao of Void in Sen Luo's ninth star without any reservations. However, Ning Fan could not believe that Sen Luo would actually keep him in his divine star space without any worries. Divine star, demon star and devil star. Ning Fan had already stopped cultivating them a long time ago. To cultivators of the divine Tao, cultivating divine stars was the best way to increase their strength. The divine star was located in the glabella of a profound cultivator. Normally, only profound cultivators at the nascent soul realm could cultivate the first divine star. At the divine transformation realm, they could cultivate the second, the void refinement realm, the third and the void fragmentation realm. At the extreme life immortal realm, they could cultivate the fifth divine star. At the Duzhen realm, Shikong realm and Broken Thought realm, they could cultivate the 6th, 7th and 8th divine stars respectively. Only at the Eternal Ancient realm could they cultivate the 9th divine star. Divine stars could nurture divine abilities. Many profound cultivators' trump cards required divine stars to perform their techniques. Ning Fan's knowledge was vast and varied. He did not cultivate many divine stars. As for Sun Luo, he cultivated them step by step. The 9th star was condensed after Sun Luo's immemorial time. The divine ability it contained was Sun Luo's star burial technique. Ning Fan stood on the 9th star of Sun Luo. Countless light balls that were engraved with flowing shadows were floating in the air. Ning Fan casually summoned a light ball and held it in his hand. Then, he spread his spirit sense into the light ball and read the information in it. These light balls contained the entire process of Sun Luo Immortal King's cultivation of the star burial technique. They also contained his comprehension towards the Tao of the Void. Ning Fan would definitely obtain great benefits from browsing through these light balls. He could not believe that Sun Luo, who was cold and indifferent, would give him such a great opportunity to comprehend the Tao of the Void for no reason. Not far away from him stood an oval blood-red star door. Once he stepped through this door, he would be able to leave this starry space and return to the outside world to regain his freedom. Through this door, he could see everything that was happening in the outside world. Ning Fan's vigilance gradually rose. He had a feeling that Sun Luo had an ulterior motive for doing this. Just as you expected, I didn't give this 9th star to you for nothing. I want to use this Tao comprehension to exchange for one of your divine abilities. Sun Luo's voice resounded again. Exchange for my divine ability? Ning Fan was surprised. That's right. I want to use my comprehension here to exchange for your Spirit Blast technique. Spirit Blast technique? Ning Fan was stunned. After remaining silent for a while, he suddenly patted his storage pouch and took out a jade slip. Then, he engraved the Spirit Blast technique into it. Just as the jade slip was engraved, blood-red starlight flashed and the jade slip vanished into thin air. Sun Luo had taken it away. In the void outside, Sun Luo was browsing through the jade slip in his hand while traveling across star regions. After a long time, he nodded with satisfaction and said, "Not a bad divine ability. As long as there are enough primordial spirits of cultivators, even the Divine Void Emperor and the Divine Void Emperor would find it hard to resist this technique. I didn't expect that when I was imprisoned in the heavenly prison, there was actually a junior in the eastern heaven who had created such a mysterious divine ability." Bang! Having comprehended the essence of this technique, Sun Luo crushed the jade slip in his hand. His eyes flashed with a cold light. Suddenly, he stopped outside a star region where the cold wind was blowing. It was an imperial star region in the eastern heaven immortal world called the 9 Nether Star region. The strongest force in this star region was the 9 Nether sect. Behind the 9 Nether sect was a 6 Tribulation Immortal Emperor, Great Sovereign 9 Nether. Currently, Ning Fan was hiding in Sun Luo's 9th star. Through the star door not far away, he could clearly see the 9 Nether Star region in the outside world. The location of the 9 Nether Star region was completely different from the Eastern Sea Star region where the Godly Void Pavilion was located. Ning Fan recognized the 9 Nether Star region. His eyes could not help but reveal a hint of confusion. It seems like this Sun Luo Immortal King isn't in a hurry to go to the Eastern Sea Star region. He actually changed his route and came to this 9 Nether Star region. I wonder what is his purpose for coming here. Ning Fan shook his head. He released the little demoness from the Yuanya world and placed her flat on the ground. Seeing that the little demoness was still sleeping peacefully and the remaining poison in her body had yet to be cured, Ning Fan could not help but sigh. Then, he sat down cross-legged on the ground again and took out a lot of materials to make fireworks in the mortal world. He did not forget that Sun Luo also gave him another task, which was to make fireworks. His hands did not stop making fireworks. His eyes, however, were fixed outside the star door, observing Sun Luo's every move. He saw Sun Luo standing outside the 9 nether star region for a long time. At first, his eyes were filled with nostalgia. In the end, his gaze became colder and colder. All of a sudden, he raised his hand and pressed one of his fingers at the 9 nether star region. As soon as he pressed his finger, the grand formation of the entire 9 nether star region shattered. The sound of it collapsing shocked all the second step cultivators in the entire star region. On the 9 nether star, at the bottom of an icy abyss, an old man wearing a purple python robe suddenly opened his silver pupils. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he exclaimed, "It's Sun Luo. He's actually not dead yet." Without any hesitation, the purple-robed old man suddenly rose to his feet. His body swayed and covered the sky with divine light. In an instant, he disappeared from the icy abyss and reappeared in the vast starry sky. This person stood in the starry sky, causing the galaxies to tremble. Suddenly, an incomparably gigantic golden shadow appeared behind him. It was the shadow of an emperor. This person was the emperor of the 9 nether star region, the 9 nether great emperor. However, the eyes of the 9 nether great emperor, who was supposed to be high and mighty, were filled with incomparable solemnity and fear. He stared at the blood-haired man in the void space in front of him as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Luo Jiu. In the past, you followed Emperor Shen's space and ambushed me with a finger. Today, I will return the favor. The corner of Sun Luo's mouth curved into a cold smile. He suddenly raised his hand and pressed his finger down at the 9 nether great emperor. This finger contained the monstrous devil intent of the Sun Luo immortal king. It was as if he wanted to refine everything in front of him into that finger of darkness. The moment the Sun Luo immortal king displayed this technique, a gigantic shadow of a black sun suddenly appeared behind him. It emitted an evil black light. At the moment the Sun Luo immortal king raised his finger, the 9 nether great emperor's face suddenly turned pale. This is the dark obsidian finger. The emperor technique of the dark race that is not passed down to others. Only a few immortal emperors of the dark race can learn it. How did you obtain this technique? Could it be that you are so audacious as to kill an immortal emperor of the dark race and snatch this technique? You're a madman. How dare you touch a member of the 10 great secret races? Before his voice died away, the 9 nether great emperor turned around and tried to flee. Even though he was a 6 tribulation immortal emperor whose cultivation realm was higher than Sun Luo, who was a 5 tribulation immortal king, he knew how strong Sun Luo was and how vicious the dark obsidian finger was. Sun Luo's finger was definitely enough to severely injure him. Dark race. Emperor technique. Dark obsidian finger. On the 9th star, Ning Fan witnessed everything that was happening in the outside world. His heart was in turmoil. It was his first time hearing about the 10 great secret races. It turned out that there was a race called the Dark Race among the 10 great secret races. It was his first time seeing Sun Luo display the dark obsidian finger. He felt that this ability was extremely evil and its power was even more terrifying. Ning Fan could not help but raise his hand and imitate the Tao essence of Sun Luo's dark obsidian finger. However, he could not replicate the essence of that finger no matter how hard he tried. In the outside world, when Sun Luo saw the 9 nether great emperor turning around to flee, he let out a disdainful snort. Then, he pressed his finger even faster. You can't escape. Chapter 782. You can't escape. Sun Luo let out a cold snort and pressed his finger even faster. The giant black sun behind him shattered into countless black flames that turned into countless black fire crows. The fire crows all gathered together and let out ominous cries. They formed a giant finger that was even larger than a low-rank star system. It was filled with evil energy and pressed down toward 9 nether emperor. The finger was covered in black flames. The black flames weren't real flames but formed by the power of extreme darkness. The dark aura that came from the giant finger quickly spread to the dozens of planets. The creatures on those planets immediately melted into black blood. In the end, even those cultivation planets collapsed. The thousands of cultivation planets in the distance were affected by the evil aura. Their spiritual energy became polluted and the cultivators' cultivation levels began to drop. At this moment, countless cultivators in the 9 Nether Star System revealed expressions of fear. They could feel that a peerless powerhouse was using a destructive spell in the 9 Nether Star System. All the ice in the 9 Nether Star System melted into black water at this moment. Endless black gas came from the giant finger and swept toward 9 Nether Emperor. The 9th Underworld Emperor was greatly shocked. He knew how terrifying and vicious the luminous finger was. It was capable of harming one's cultivation and ruining one's Tao, and it wasn't something he could go against. If he were to suffer this finger, then his cultivation would definitely suffer a great loss, so it was best to avoid this finger. He waved his hand and tore open a silver ice door before him. He stepped inside and disappeared without a trace. The giant finger trembled and shattered countless cracks in the void before disappearing without a trace. A moment later, the entire 9 Nether Star System began to tremble violently. Following that, countless spatial cracks exploded in the starry sky, and countless icy ravines extended wildly in the starry sky. In the end, there was a loud bang and a silver ice door appeared out of nowhere. As soon as the silver ice gate appeared, it immediately exploded into countless ice shards. A purple-robed old man in ragged clothes fell out with a black aura covering his face. His complexion was extremely weak. Not only was his cultivation greatly damaged, almost falling from the Emperor realm, even one of his arms had been strangely cut off from the crook of his arm. Black blood flowed out from the cut. The 9th Nether Great Sovereign, the 6th tribulation of all eternity, was actually severely injured by a single finger of the Sen Luo Immortal King. Ning Fan's face was filled with astonishment as he witnessed everything in front of him from the 9th star. Sen Luo's strength was still beyond Ning Fan's estimation. The Netherworld Great Emperor, a 6th tribulation Immortal Emperor, was no match for Sen Luo. The 9 Nether Emperor's face was ashen as he coughed. He looked at Sen Luo with deep fear in his eyes. After that fear, there was also a hint of viciousness. There were too many grievances between him and Sen Luo, so it was unlikely for them to be on good terms. A battle was unavoidable. With a resolute look in his eyes, he placed his remaining hand on his storage bag and took out a huge silver-colored dragon skeleton. He raised it into the air. It was the dragon skeleton of a demon dragon that had fallen countless years ago. Judging from the chi of this dragon skeleton, this dragon's cultivation base was at least at the 6th tribulation realm. The 9 Nether Emperor's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He wanted to use this dragon skeleton to summon the remnant soul of this demon dragon and join forces with it to fight against Sen Luo. He changed his hand seal and the dragon skeleton began to move with a cracking sound, emitting a frosty dragon's breath. 2 balls of silver flames suddenly flashed in his empty eye sockets. He glared at Sen Luo fiercely and suddenly let out a dragon roar that shocked the entire star region. As soon as the dragon roar was heard, a huge sea of rainbow-colored lightning immediately appeared in the starry sky. Countless rainbow-colored lightning zigzagged like snakes and struck at Sen Luo with thunderous roars. The remains of a flowing dragon, huh? When Qianyu was still alive, she had once praised the holiness and beauty of the flowing dragon. The flowing dragon was the most beautiful type of dragon among the demons of the dragon clan. I didn't expect that it was just an ugly skeleton after its death. Sen Luo's usual cold eyes flashed with nostalgia again. Then, his lips curled into a disdainful smile. He looked at the sea of lightning in the sky and didn't run or avoid it. He raised his hand and a small axe immediately appeared in his hand. The entire axe was transparent as if it was carved from a blood-colored crystal. There was a poem carved on the small axe. The words were rough and wild. It was Sun Luo's handwriting, but the poem was graceful and elegant. It was definitely not something that Sun Luo could write. The first flower is good, don't teach me to hate Xiao Xiao. The second full moon, don't teach me to let down Chan Wan. The best is for a good family to be happy together. This life and this night, Chang Pen. It was a poem that was casually recited by a woman. It was carved on Sun Luo's axe and also in Sun Luo's heart. However, the Xiao Xiao she was waiting for was not him. However, he couldn't give her Chang Pen. The only thing he could do was to make everyone who had let her down pay the price. The blood-colored axe in his hand suddenly became huge. It was as tall as a person and was firmly held in Sun Luo's hand. That blood-colored axe was his Dao weapon. The name of the axe was Chang Pen. At this moment, the reminiscence in Sun Luo's eyes turned into anger and madness. He roared towards the heavens. Chang Pen. Chang Pen. If I don't give you 10,000 green leaves, I will make them wither for a lifetime. From now on, Eastern Sky can forget about having a good time. If I don't give you a bright moon, I will make it forever incomplete. From now on, Eastern Sky can forget about having a full moon. I will make rivers of blood flow in the divine void realm. I will make Sky Prison never have peace. I will make Eastern Sky never have Changpen. Chi. Facing the Sea of Thunder, Sun Luo's axe chopped down. The axe light flashed and the boundless blood-colored flames immediately spread out along with the axe light like a swimming dragon, swallowing up the Sea of Thunder. The first axe strike destroyed the Sea of Thunder. Sun Luo raised his hand and raised the axe again. Without any hesitation, he chopped down at the broken bone of the flowing dragon. With the second axe strike, the empty starry sky was immediately split in two by the blood-colored axe light. Large swathes of the starry sky collapsed. The broken bone of the flowing dragon was struck by the axe light. It immediately let out a heaven-shaking scream. Within the blood-colored light, it shattered into countless pieces of bone powder. Ninth Nether Emperor was shocked. He never thought that Sun Luo would take out the Chang and axe against him. He and Sun Luo had been friends for countless years, so he had a good understanding of Sun Luo's various supernatural powers. Chang and axe, Chang and axe. Ninth Nether Emperor understood Sun Luo. He knew that if he took out this axe, he must be determined to kill the enemy. The Chang and axe was a ferocious Dao weapon. Every attack needed to consume Sun Luo's blood essence in order to display 100% of its power. And once it was taken out, it would be difficult to put it back into one's body without killing the enemy and drinking the enemy's blood. Back then, this old man only sneak attacked him once, and he actually wants to kill this old man. Ninth Nether Emperor was shocked. Seeing Sun Luo raise the axe again and chopping down in his direction for the third time, Ninth Nether Emperor gritted his teeth. His figure flashed and turned into millions of silver flowing lights that fled in millions of directions. These millions of flowing lights were his unique escape technique. Logically speaking, only one of them was his real body. At this moment, Ninth Nether Emperor was heavily injured by the luminous finger, and his cultivation was greatly damaged. He wasn't a match for Sun Luo in the first place, and he was even less of a match for Sun Luo now. Moreover, when he saw Sun Luo take out the Chang and axe, he naturally didn't dare to face it head-on. Sun Luo sneered without end as he looked at Ninth Nether Emperor who was escaping by trick. He didn't stop the millions of flowing lights from fleeing, and the light of the axe slanted and chopped down towards an empty place. As the axe chopped down, the river of stars instantly collapsed, and an extremely sorry figure fell out from the cracks. Shockingly, it was Ninth Nether Emperor. Ninth Nether Emperor didn't hide in the flowing light at all. Instead, he slyly hid here and prepared to stay here to watch. If there was a chance, he would wait for an opportunity to sneak attack Sun Luo. Those millions of flowing lights were just a distraction. Even though this person's idea was good, he was unfortunately seen through by Sun Luo, and he immediately coughed up blood and retreated in the starry sky. After he stabilized his figure with great difficulty, there wasn't a single piece of uninjured flesh on his body, and he was covered in wounds left by the bloody axe light. Sen Luo. In any case, I've known you for many years. In the past, I was just blinded by greed and sneakily attacked you with one finger. Do you really want to fight to the death with me? Ninth Nether Emperor roared furiously. Luo Jiu, you've injured my finger. Considering our past friendship, I'll only return you one finger and let it go. However, you shouldn't have drunk that bowl of primordial spirit wine. Since you've betrayed me, I'll cut off all ties with you. Since you've injured Xinyu, I'll turn you into ashes. Heaven Sealing Technique. Sen Luo was so angry that he laughed. He suddenly raised his hand and pointed a finger at Ninth Nether Emperor. Countless black lines in the void immediately fixed Ninth Nether Emperor in the starry sky. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with surprise. He never expected that Sen Luo would actually know how to use the Heaven Sealing Technique. When he took a closer look, he realized that the Heaven Sealing Technique was just a pseudo-divine ability that Sen Luo imitated. It wasn't the real Heaven Sealing Technique. Only then did his astonishment lessen. Being fixed in the starry sky by Sen Luo, the Ninth Nether Emperor had nowhere to run or hide. He couldn't even move or resist. He was greatly shocked. Impossible. What you've just used is obviously not the real Heaven Sealing Technique. How can it actually stop me? Humph. So what if it's not the orthodox technique? Chi. Chi. Sen Luo let out a cold snort. He pinned Ninth Nether Emperor with one of his fingers while holding the axe in his other hand. 1 axe, 2 axes, 3 axes, 10 axes, 100 axes, 1,000 axes. One after another, the axes that shook the entire galaxy landed on Ninth Nether Emperor's body, constantly creating destructive waves. Ninth Nether Emperor's injuries became more and more severe. His physical body gradually collapsed, leaving only his golden primordial spirit. The reason why his primordial spirit was golden was because it was protected by his Emperor Qi. Even though the axes were powerful and kept severely injuring and weakening the power of Ninth Nether Emperor's primordial spirit, it still couldn't completely destroy this golden primordial spirit. Witnessing this scene, Ning Fan was deeply shocked. He had once read from an ancient book that immortal emperors who had emperor shadows could rely on their Emperor Qi to protect their primordial spirit. They were indestructible and difficult to kill. Even though Ninth Nether Emperor was no match for Sen Luo, it was also difficult for Sen Luo to kill him. Not to mention Sen Luo, even the 2 emperors of the 8th Tribulation of Eternity, the Divine and Void Emperors could not easily destroy an immortal emperor's primordial spirit. Sen Luo. Even though you are strong, you still can't kill me. I advise you to quickly let me go. Otherwise. Ninth Nether Emperor's golden primordial spirit sneered. Just as he was about to threaten him, his expression changed abruptly at the next moment. Luo Jiu, do you really think I can't kill you? The corner of Sen Luo's mouth curved into a mocking smile. He suddenly kept his axe back into his body. Then, he raised his hand and made a grabbing motion in the direction of Ninth Nether Emperor. This grab contained the power of the void which Sen Luo was famous for and the power of time which he obtained from the flowing sand primogenitor. When the power of time and the power of the void intersected, time and space seemed to have frozen at this moment. The Tao of life and death, the Tao of true void and the Tao of time and space. After that, it was samsara. Along the way, Sen Luo had comprehended life and death in the first step of cultivation. In the second step of cultivation, he comprehended the true void, comprehended the power of space and obtained the power of time. At this moment, his hand was actually surrounded by a genuine power of samsara. Unlike the power of samsara which Ning Fan had just obtained, this power of samsara was powerful and terrifying. It was enough to wipe out Ninth Nether Emperor's primordial spirit. Therefore, Ninth Nether Emperor really began to feel fear. Samsara. Power of Samsara. This is the legendary power that only saints at the third step of Tao cultivation can master. How can you display it? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Ninth Nether Emperor roared in shock and fear. You don't need to know. Destroy. Sen Luo clenched his fist fiercely. 5 rays of Samsara finger light immediately turned into claw shadows, tearing the starry sky and shredding Ninth Nether Emperor's primordial spirit with ease. On this day, in the Eastern Heaven Immortal World, a great emperor whose name shook the entire galaxy fell in Sen Luo's hands. However, Ninth Nether Emperor was not the only great emperor who fell in the chaos of Eastern Heaven this time. After killing Ninth Nether Emperor, Sen Luo stood in the 9 Nether Star region for a long time. However, he did not start a massacre in this star region. He raised his hand and sucked the fragments of Ninth Nether Emperor's golden primordial spirit into his hand. After studying them carefully, he shook his head and said, "Even though the Spirit Blast technique is amazing, it can't use the primordial spirit of immortal emperors as a catalyst. Even though this technique is powerful, it still has its limits. Luo Jiu, even though you have betrayed me and even hurt Qianyu, your brother has died in order to save me. Regarding the grudge between you and me, I will only kill you alone. I won't implicate your clansmen." As soon as he finished speaking, Sen Luo swallowed those primordial spirit fragments and suddenly turned around, flying in another direction. It was a rampage, a complete rampage. After traveling in the starry sky for an unknown period of time, Sen Luo stopped at another star region. Imperial Star Region, Zhenyuan Star Region. Outside this star region, a grand formation had already been set up and countless experts were guarding it. At the center of those experts stood a white-browed child. He was dressed in a Taoist robe and his aura force was terrifying. He was actually another immortal emperor who had passed the 6th tribulation. "I heard that you killed Ninth Nether Emperor. Is that true?" The white-browed child snorted coldly and asked Sen Luo angrily. Obviously, he had already obtained all kinds of information about Sen Luo. However, deep down, he still did not believe it. Sen Luo sneered. He did not answer him directly. Instead, he raised one of his hands and swiped across the void space. Layers of cold qi immediately appeared in the void space. Within the cold qi, an extremely cold silver sword floated in front of Sen Luo. This sword was not a precious Tao weapon but a manifestation of a divine ability. This technique was one of Ninth Nether Emperor's trump cards, the Dark Ice Sword. Unfortunately, before Sen Luo, the 9th Hell Emperor didn't even have the chance to execute this technique before perishing with hatred in his heart. Ning Fan's eyes became more and more solemn as he observed the sword in the 9th star sphere. He felt that this sword was extremely cold. A single strike from it was enough to freeze an entire mid-grade star region. However, he did not know that this technique was 9th Nether Emperor's divine ability. The white-browed child, on the other hand, knew about this technique. As soon as he saw Sen Luo display 9th Nether Emperor's divine ability, he immediately revealed an extremely shocked expression. You really killed 9th Nether Emperor and devoured his primordial spirit with the Tao seizing from the void technique and seized his divine ability and secret technique. Impossible. You're just an immortal king. How could you destroy an immortal emperor's primordial spirit? What answered the white-browed child was rays of cold sword light. Without saying anything, Sen Luo directly held the dark ice sword and pointed it at the Zhenyuan star region. All of a sudden, the Zhenyuan star region began to freeze. Countless cultivators who were guarding outside the star region were directly frozen to death. In the 9 Nether Star region, Sen Luo still gave some face to the cultivators of the star region because he was 9th Nether Emperor's elder brother. However, in this place, he did not need to show any mercy to anyone. Hand over the 12 heaven-piercing arrows and I can spare your life. Otherwise, die. Sen Luo stared at the white-browed child coldly. The white-browed child's name was Great Emperor Jin Yuan. He was one of the 16 emperors of Eastern Heaven who guarded the Jin Yuan star region. Chapter 783. Did you come here to snatch the sky-piercing arrow? The white-browed boy gradually put away his surprise and sneered disdainfully. With a fierce flick of his sleeve, the sword light and frost that had been spreading through the starry sky were collected. He raised his hand again, and a black and blue array diagram appeared. In the next instant, thousands of immortal cultivators immediately surrounded Sen Luo with array flags in hand. The immortals waved the array flags and immediately triggered the power of the starry sky to set up another boundless array diagram. A tree grew out of the diagram, and the tree turned into thousands of strands of blue light that trapped Sen Luo inside the array light. Green wisteria with barbs grew out of the array light continuously and swept toward Sen Luo. This array light was no weaker than the black prison barrier that Sen Luo had used to imprison the divine void emperors. Mysterious pine 8 array diagram. Sen Luo frowned slightly and then snorted coldly. He dispersed the dark ice sword divine ability, and boundless blood flames appeared around him to burn the green wisteria that tried to get close to him. His red hair danced wildly. Killing Emperor Jiuyo was an old grudge. He didn't have any old grudges with Emperor Jin Yuan, but he had heard that the sky-piercing arrow was extremely sharp and could break congenital treasures and the defense of an immortal emperor, which might help his plan. Sen Luo knew that Emperor Jin Yuan was proficient in a primordial spirit life-saving secret technique. Given his strength, it wouldn't be hard for him to defeat Jin Yuan, but killing him would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The sky-piercing arrow was a supreme treasure that Emperor Jin Yuan had refined for many years, so he naturally wouldn't give it to Sen Luo for nothing. Sen Luo understood that if he didn't beat Jin Yuan into fear today, the other party wouldn't obediently hand over the sky-piercing arrow. With a flip of his hand, a blood-colored ring suddenly appeared in Sen Luo's hand. This was a medium-sized domain treasure called the Fiend Ring, which contained a fiend domain. It was covered in seals, and some kind of vicious creature was sealed inside. Fiend domain, open. With a cold shout, the ring on Sen Luo's finger immediately emitted a faint blood light, and a giant flaming blood gate appeared out of thin air in the starry sky in front of him. The giant gate was only a third of the way open when it suddenly shattered as if it had been hit by a fierce attack. In the next instant, a black-scaled behemoth with 4 short legs, a huge head, and a purple horn on its head suddenly rushed out of the giant door and appeared in the starry sky. As soon as the beast appeared, it revealed a ferocious glint in its eyes. It swept its surroundings and let out a world-shaking roar. Its aura was comparable to that of a 3-tribulation celestial king. It raised its purple horn and charged furiously at Sen Luo. The sharpness of its purple horn was probably something even some connate treasures couldn't compare to. Although it was only a 3rd tribulation celestial king, if its horn collided with a 4th tribulation or 5th tribulation celestial king, it would be enough to injure them. Sen Luo sighed when he saw the violet-horned ink-scaled colossal beast roaring furiously as it charged towards him, but he didn't dodge. He just raised his hand and slapped it towards the ink-scaled colossal beast, forcefully stopping its charge, and feigned indifference as he spoke. You were originally the Shao clan's guardian demonic beast. Back then, I slaughtered the entire Shao clan and forcefully subdued you. It's only natural that you hate me. You attacked me several times, but I didn't pursue the matter because in the entire Shao clan, you were the only one who treated Qin Yu well. Today, I came to this star domain to seize the sky-piercing arrow, unseal Qin Yu's remnant soul, and fulfill her last wish. Are you willing to help me seize the sky-piercing arrow? After saying this, Sen Luo didn't say anything else. As he casually broke the array light attack in the 8 formation diagram, he looked quietly at the ink-scaled beast. When the vicious beast, which had been roaring furiously, heard Sen Luo's words, the ferocious light in its eyes froze and gradually disappeared. She most likely wants to see you. Are you going to Sky Prison with me to see her? Sen Luo asked again. Roar, the ink-scaled beast roared, and its eyes were suddenly filled with even more intense fury than before. This fury wasn't directed at Sen Luo. Seeing its expression, Sen Luo knew that the beast had already agreed to help him. Sen Luo nodded in satisfaction and sent a few more telepathic messages to the ink-scaled colossal beast. His gaze swept over the green array light around them, and a cold light gradually appeared in his eyes as he sneered. Jin Yuan, although your primordial mystic soul separation technique is powerful, you might not be able to escape this beast's pursuit. Since you won't hand over the sky-piercing arrow obediently, don't blame me for being ruthless. Emperor Technique, Space Split. Sen Luo abruptly raised his foot and stomped down on the array diagram under his feet. The air around them instantly twisted violently, and then the space around them started to twist as well. Under the extreme distortion, the momentum was thrown into chaos, and the array light collapsed. Sen Luo's hands tore at the air, and the space that couldn't be touched by his hands was like a thin piece of paper as it was torn apart with a hiss. The void was torn to shreds, and the great array completely collapsed. The power of the black and green array diagram was greatly reduced, and it flew back into the white-browed boy's hands. The thousands of immortal cultivators who had set up the array suffered severe backlash and retreated with serious injuries. This is one of the strongest divine abilities of the Void Scripture, the Space Split Technique. Distorting space, forcefully breaking momentum, and even trapping you in the 8 formation diagram, the white-browed boy's eyes were extremely solemn. He put away the black pine 8 formation diagram and took out a navy blue bronze hammer, which he abruptly raised into the sky. The hammer grew with the wind. Once it rose into the air, it immediately shone with divine light and smashed down at Sen Luo with the power of a connate spirit. The fighting hammer, the corners of Sen Luo's eyes narrowed. He abruptly raised his hand and made a grabbing motion with his 5 fingers, and the space twisted once more. The connate hammer's attack was immediately reversed, and it smashed toward countless immortal cultivators on the side. Most of these immortal cultivators were life immortals, but there were also some crossing truth immortals. There were very few skulls, and there were only 3 thought-shattering immortals. When the hammer smashed down, hundreds of life immortals were immediately smashed into meat paste and fell into the starry sky. More than 10 crossing truth immortals died, and 2 skulls lost their bodies, leaving only their primordial spirits. Seeing that so many of his own people had been killed by the hammer, the white-browed boy's face turned extremely ugly. He hurriedly raised his hand to put away the treasure hammer, then took out a golden bow with a golden crystal arrow knocked on it, and aimed at Sen Luo. Sen Luo's space-splitting technique could change the attack direction of most magical treasures, but it certainly couldn't change the direction of this arrow. This arrow was one of the 12 heaven-breaking arrows that Sen Luo had been dreaming of. Without any hesitation, the white-browed boy drew the bow and shot the arrow at Sen Luo. However, a golden light flashed, and the arrow disappeared. Before Sen Luo could react, he felt a pain in his chest. The arrow had already pierced through his dantian and his primordial spirit. Even Sen Luo, who had a cold temperament, couldn't help but be slightly surprised at this moment, and the next moment, that surprise turned into passion. Sure enough, with this arrow, the chance of destroying the bell has increased a bit. This seed is taking this arrow. Soul extraction. Sen Luo raised his head and laughed, then raised his hand to grab the entire galaxy. Extract the soul of the earth, the soul of the void, and the soul of the sun, moon, and stars. Sen Luo's soul extraction technique could only extract star souls, but the star souls he extracted were not from a single cultivation planet, but from countless cultivation planets in the entire Jin Yuan star zone. In the entire Eastern Heaven Immortal Realm, there was only one cultivator who could extract the star souls of an entire imperial star zone. After extracting the star souls of the entire imperial star zone, Sen Luo's aura suddenly skyrocketed, and in an instant, his aura reached the realm of the 6th eternal tribulation. Before he extracted the soul of the imperial star zone, he could already kill the 9th Nether Heavenly Emperor. Now that he had used a secret technique, his cultivation had reached the 6th Eternal Tribulation, and he could even defeat the 7th Eternal Tribulation cultivators. The white-browed boy in front of him was nothing to be afraid of. Since you don't want to hand over the heaven-breaking arrow, I'll take it by force. Roar! At this moment, Sen Luo raised his head and let out a heaven-shaking roar. The blood-red flame around him spread wildly in the starry sky, turning into a blood-red sea of fire. The blood-red sound circle shook fiercely in all directions. Thousands of immortal cultivators who were struck by the blood-red sound circle trembled, and then they let out shrill cries before exploding into clouds of blood mist and perishing. When the demonic roar entered the white-browed boy's ears, it immediately caused him to feel dizzy and tinnitus. His chi and blood were in chaos, and the demonic will invaded his body. He forcefully activated his secret technique to stabilize his aura. Before the white-browed boy could react, he discovered to his shock that Sen Luo had already vanished without a trace. He did not know where he had gone to. Only the ferocious beast that Sen Luo had summoned was still staring at him coldly in the air. Not good. The white-browed boy immediately felt a sense of danger. Without saying a word, his body shook and scattered into 49 rays of divine light that fled in 49 different directions. The ink-scaled behemoth, which had been motionless like a mountain, suddenly shot out divine light from its eyes and swept toward the 49 rays of divine light formed by the white-browed boy. Every time it swept through a ray of divine light, a scream would come from the ray of divine light. 49 shrill cries rang out, and 49 rays of divine light shattered. The white-browed boy's figure shook, and he reappeared in the starry sky in a sorry state. His face was pale and bloodless, and he seemed to be extremely weak. He glared furiously at the ink-scaled behemoth. Once this old man uses the mysterious origin soul separation technique, I can escape from danger. Even an 8th Tribulation Celestial Emperor can't catch me. I didn't expect this technique to be broken by you, you evil creature. Humph, so that's how it is. I didn't expect this old man to be blind and not see that you're a destruction beast that has cultivated the destruction divine light. As the white-browed boy spoke, he clenched his fist and punched toward the void to his left. In that direction, Sen Luo suddenly appeared. Without saying a word, he punched out and collided with the white-browed boy's fist. When the fists collided, Sen Luo didn't retreat even half a step, but the white-browed boy coughed out blood and retreated. Sen Luo looked at the unsteady white-browed boy and sneered. His hands tore the space in front of him, and the space immediately distorted. The white-browed boy felt pain all over his body. The distorted space heavily injured his body again. He angrily stared at Sen Luo, who was approaching step by step. Under that anger, there was finally some fear. He could tell that he couldn't win against Sen Luo. If they fought again, he might die at Sen Luo's hands, just like the 9 Nether Emperor. Forget it. I'll give you 6 heaven-piercing arrows. Let me go. If you force me into a corner, I'll fight you to the death. You won't have an easy time either. The white-browed boy gritted his teeth and said. 12 arrows. If you lose one, don't even think about living today. Sen Luo snorted coldly. You. The white-browed boy glared at Sen Luo. In truth, he still had a life-risking technique that could trade life for life and heavily injure Sen Luo. However, if it was possible, he wouldn't use this life-risking technique. On second thought, even if he lost the heaven-piercing arrows, he could still make more. Although the materials used were all supreme treasures, it was not impossible to make 12 more arrows. If he was killed by Sen Luo for a few heaven-piercing arrows, the loss would outweigh the gain. The white-browed boy gritted his teeth and nodded bitterly. Fine, I can give you all the heaven-piercing arrows, but you have to swear that you will never offend my Jinyuan star area again. As for how you commit crimes in other eastern sky star areas, I won't ask. I don't have the habit of swearing. But if you give me the heaven-piercing arrows, I promise you that I will never offend your Jin Yuan star area again, Sen Luo said coldly. He waved his hand to undo the space distortion. Well. Fine, the white-browed boy sighed. He knew that he couldn't force Sen Luo to swear. But he also knew that Sen Luo would never go back on his words. With a flick of his sleeve, 12 small golden needles with hooks appeared in his hand out of nowhere. If one looked closely, they would find that these 12 small needles were miniature versions of the heaven-piercing arrows. The white-browed boy looked at the thin needles in his hand reluctantly. He raised his hand and threw the 12 golden lights to Sen Luo. Sen Luo took the 12 golden lights with a flick of his sleeve. Without saying a word, he moved and stood on the giant head of the ink-scaled behemoth. Qianxuan, let's go to the primal core star area. Roar! The giant beast seemed extremely dissatisfied with Sen Luo calling it that. After all, it was a name given by Qinyu. How could an outsider call it that? Although it was dissatisfied with Sen Luo's title, the giant beast didn't disobey Sen Luo's order. It turned into a streak of light and dashed toward the primal core star area. After Sen Luo and the ink-scaled behemoth left, the periphery of the Jin Yuan star area was left with countless ruins, broken corpses, storage bags, broken Dharma treasures, and the white-browed boy, who looked worried. The white-browed boy's subordinates were all dead, and he himself was severely injured. He had also lost the heaven-piercing arrows that he had painstakingly refined, but he still managed to keep his life. He was still worried, but when he suddenly heard that Sen Luo wanted to go to the primal core star area, he was immediately shocked. The primal core star area was a superior star area, but it was extremely extraordinary. Although it wasn't an imperial star, there was a secret place called the Supreme Dan Sacred Region. The master of the Supreme Dan Sacred Region was a mysterious great emperor with a strange temperament. He didn't live in the imperial star, but kept a low profile and guarded the Supreme Dan Sacred Region. Few people in the world knew about this person. Only the old monsters of the ancient times had heard of him. This person was a 7-tribulation immortal emperor. He rarely fought and was called the Primal Core Great Emperor. He was one of the 16 emperors of the East Sky. Sen Luo is going to look for trouble with the Primal Core Old Man again. I wonder what the outcome of the battle between him and the Primal Core Old Man will be. Cough, cough, cough. The white-browed child had the intention to go to the Primal Core star area to take a look and fish in troubled waters. However, he was too heavily injured at the moment. Every time he spoke, he would cough out blood. It seemed like he couldn't get involved in the affairs of the Primal Core star area. Thus, he decided to go into seclusion first. Someone, clean up the battlefield and bury the cultivators who died in battle. The white-browed child gave the battlefield a complicated look and ordered the vast galaxy. Countless subordinates immediately flew out from each of the cultivation planets to carry out the order. As for him, he quietly flew to the Jin Yuan star and decided to go into seclusion to heal his injuries. In the 9th star area, Ning Fan was making fireworks while replaying the scenes of the battles between Sen Luo's emperors in his mind. It was a great opportunity for him to observe the battles between Sen Luo and the immortal emperors. It was a great benefit to Ning Fan to increase his experience in fights of magical power. Ning Fan traced the Tao essence of Sen Luo's star souls. Gradually, he understood something. It hurts. The little demoness who had been lying quietly beside him suddenly let out a moan and opened her eyes slightly. The moment she opened her eyes and saw the unfamiliar environment of the 9th star area, she immediately put on an unprecedented vigilance. When she realized that Ning Fan was also beside her, she lowered her vigilance and sat up slightly. Looking at the fireworks on the ground, she asked doubtfully. "Where are we?" "Ugh. Husband. What are you doing?" "This is the 9th star area of Sen Luo. Many things happened while you were unconscious. I can tell you everything. This is the star area of Sen Luo Immortal King." All of a sudden, the little demoness' black eyes were filled with astonishment. After the initial shock, her face was filled with anger and hatred. Before Ning Fan could explain everything in detail, she suddenly felt a sharp pain from the void poison. Her whole body went limp and she fell on Ning Fan's knees. Her clothes slipped, revealing her snow-white shoulder. Ning Fan immediately reached out his hand and touched her forehead. He felt that it was scalding hot and his face immediately turned gloomy. The void poison had acted up again. Chapter 784. This time, the void poison flared up quickly and violently. The feeling of numbness and powerlessness dissipated in an instant and was replaced by unimaginable pain. At this moment, the little demoness was half leaning in Ning Fan's arms. Her chest was still heaving up and down rapidly. She felt as if every inch of her body was being torn apart by something. In a short period of time, her body was completely soaked in sweat as if she had gone through a catastrophe. The black dress made of Xian'ei silk clung tightly to her body, outlining her exquisite curves. Every inch of her skin emitted a faint fragrance of tea. This fragrance was left behind by the little demoness when she brewed the tea every day. The fragrance of the tea was somewhat refreshing, causing Ning Fan to be momentarily dazed. It reminded him of the past when he brewed the Qilin tea with the little demoness. The dazed feeling disappeared in an instant and was replaced by nervousness. Ning Fan could not help but hug the little demoness tightly, as if he was worried that she would be tortured to death by the void poison. The delicate body that was within his reach was so cold, as if it would lose all warmth and die at any moment. His magical power crazily entered the little demoness body, as if he wanted to suppress the void poison in her body. Even though he knew that he could not help her suppress the void poison, Ning Fan continued to try. At this moment, the little demoness' consciousness was already blurred. In her confusion, she felt as if she had fallen into a bottomless void. It was cold and lonely. Suddenly, a warm magical power entered her body, causing her to wake up slightly. In her daze, she saw Ning Fan's burning eyes looking at her anxiously. In her drowsy state, she gradually felt more comfortable. Gradually, a blood-red light was activated in her body, expelling all the discomfort. 2 hours later, the little demoness woke up from her coma. At this moment, she was lying in Ning Fan's arms with a white satin cloak draped over her body. As for Ning Fan, he was looking at her nervously. When he realized that she had woken up, his expression became slightly better. Luckily, Sun Luo did not lie to me. His finger light really had the miraculous effect of suppressing the void poison. If it wasn't for this finger light, she might have already died from the void poison. Ning Fan heaved a sigh of relief. When he discovered that the little demon girl's void poison was acting up again, his heart was filled with despair because the void poison was too powerful. It was not something he could dispel. Fortunately, Sun Luo had already planted a ray of finger light in the little demon girl's body. Only then did he manage to suppress the poison in the little demon girl's body. In front of the void poison, Ning Fan once again felt how weak he was. This made his confidence that had risen along with his strength gradually recede. "Little Fan, you're hugging me so tightly." The little demoness gradually regained her consciousness and calmed her breathing. She smilingly looked at Ning Fan and struggled to get up from his embrace. The moment she sat up, her eyebrows knitted together. She naturally knew why she had fainted. Just because she was poisoned by the void poison, just because the void poison was acting up at this moment, this was the poison accumulated from eating the void fruit for a long period of time. Once it flared up, it would be the end of her life. But to her surprise, it didn't seem to be the first time the void poison in her body acted up. This time, the void poison had clearly acted up, but it was suppressed by another red light in her body. With the intelligence of the little demon girl, countless thoughts came to her mind very quickly. When she first found out that she was in the space of the 9th star of Sun Luo, she lost control of her emotions and was slightly at a loss. But after being disturbed by the void poison, her heart calmed down. Her eyes were like water as she carefully examined the red light in her body. After falling into the black hole, she had been unconscious. She didn't know when this red light appeared in her body. In this red light, there was an indescribable void Dao rhyme, which was enough to temporarily suppress the void poison. In this red light, there was Sun Luo's qi. Obviously, it was Sun Luo who helped her to suppress the void poison. One should know that even the Divine Void Emperor and Divine Void Emperor were powerless to suppress the void poison. However, Sun Luo was able to suppress the poison, which really surprised the little demon girl. What surprised her even more was that Sun Luo, who had always been indifferent to others, actually showed mercy and saved her. Sun Luo, Immortal King, is a great enemy of the Divine Void Emperor and a powerful devil of the Eastern Heaven. With his position, it's impossible for him to save me for no reason. There must be a reason why he helped me suppress the void poison. Could it be that all of this is related to little Fan Fan? The little demon girl's black gemstone flashed slightly. She seemed to have come to a conclusion. Suddenly, she asked with a faint smile. Little Fan Fan, was it you who asked Sun Luo, Immortal King, to help me suppress the void poison? Ning Fan nodded his head, answering the little demoness question. He released his medicine soul power and confirmed that the little demon girl was fine after the void poison flared up. Then, he heaved a sigh of relief. After thinking for a while, he decided to simplify the things that happened to her after she fell unconscious. Mu Tu, the three gods, Sun Luo, the flowing sand primogenitor's heart, the death of the 9 Nether Emperor and the severe injuries of Emperor Jin Yuan. Other than breaking through to the 3-aperture ancient god realm, Ning Fan also told her everything about being the ancient god's vessel. Ning Fan's narration was not fast. While he was talking, he was making fireworks. When he finished telling her everything, he put down the last fireworks in his hand. There were about a few thousand fireworks on the ground. It was more or less enough for Sun Luo. After keeping all the fireworks on the ground into his storage pouch, Ning Fan shifted his gaze to the side. Only then did he notice that the little demon girl was staring at him blankly without saying a word. In the space of the 9th star, the starlight spiraled in the air like a tassel. Under the starlight, the little demon girl's eyes were still a little dazed and she was at a loss. Ning Fan's words really shocked her. Whether it was the fall of the 9 Nether Great Emperor or the conspiracy of Sun Luo, all of them shocked her. However, what she found the most unbelievable was that Ning Fan actually made a deal with Sun Luo in order to cure her of the poison. He became the vessel for Sun Luo's ancient god power and made fireworks for him. In 7 Apricot City, during the auction of the Godly Void Pavilion, she peeked at him from the crowd, but her heart had never been moved. Outside the Heaven Separation sect, she giggled and asked him to hug her. Otherwise, she would expose his secret. At that moment, her heart was not moved at all. She left the rain world and returned. When they met again, she gradually lost her heart after a cup of tea. They were called Dao companions in the demon world. In the immemorial abyss, she lost her virginity again. Even though it was a dream, how could it not be real? When they met again in the Eastern Heaven, it was the calamity of the flowing sand star region. He killed Sun Yen for her. After that, he made a deal with Sun Luo in order to cure her of the poison. At this moment, how could she not be shocked? How could she not be moved? It should be said that in her seemingly respectable life, there was no one else who treated her with such sincerity like Ning Fan. She who had always been good at disguising her true feelings with a smile was now at a loss because of her emotions. She lost her usual sense of propriety. For a moment, she was speechless and did not know what to say. Be it the Eastern Heaven Demoness or the Divine Void Young Lord, she was just a woman after all. There would always be times when she would be at a loss. Ning Fan could not help but laugh. It was his first time seeing the little demon girl in such a daze. She did not have her usual craftiness and quick-wittedness. He was really not used to it. However, when he thought of the reason why she was poisoned, he frowned again. He opened his mouth and was about to ask her why she ate the void fruit. Before he could ask the question, the little demoness had already seen through his thoughts and interrupted him. "Little Fan, do you have something to ask me?" The little demon girl calmed her mind and revealed a playful smile again. She asked with a beaming smile. "Yes. Sorry, I have no comment on your question." The little demon girl raised the corner of her mouth and added. "You helped me suppress the void poison. I am very grateful. The question you want to ask me, I can more or less guess it. It is just that the matter of eating the void fruit involves the secrets of the divine void pavilion and is of great importance. I cannot tell you anything related to this matter. Even if you ask, it would be a waste of time. Have you heard of the divine void pavilion's strongest intent restriction, the Eastern Profound God restriction?" The little demon girl smiled and pointed at the space between her eyebrows. There was a bit of helplessness in her smile. When Ning Fan heard the words Eastern Profound God restriction, he first revealed a shocked expression. Then, he reached out his palm and caressed the little demon girl's forehead. His eyes suddenly widened with hidden anger. After a long time, he withdrew his palm. The anger in his eyes became even more intense as he coldly said. "Eastern Profound God restriction. What a good Eastern Profound God restriction." It was not that Ning Fan did not get angry, but at this time, he was truly enraged. According to Ning Fan's perception, the little demon girl's sea of consciousness was planted with an extremely powerful restriction. Once the little demon girl revealed any great secrets of the divine void realm, or if someone searched the little demon girl's memories, it would trigger the restriction. Even if the little demon girl had the slightest thought of betraying the restriction, she would also be attacked by the restriction. At that time, the little demon girl's sea of consciousness would instantly burn into ashes. Her primordial spirit would also instantly vanish. Ning Fan had never thought that the young master of the godly void pavilion, who seemed to have a respectable status, would actually be planted with such a vicious and famous restriction. Eastern Profound God restriction. The strongest intent restriction in the four heavens. It was one of the supreme secret techniques of the divine void pavilion. It was also a supreme divine ability of the immortal emperor level. This technique had always been in the hands of the divine void emperor, but why would it be planted on the little demon girl? It seemed that the little demon girl's situation in the divine void pavilion was not as good as he imagined. The so-called divine void young master actually received such treatment. His mind suddenly recalled Sen Luo's words. Ning Fan's heart sank as he asked. "I heard from Sen Luo that your identity is a sacrificial offering of the divine void. What is a sacrificial offering?" Hearing that Ning Fan knew that she was a sacrificial offering, the little demon girl's expression immediately became a bit unnatural. However, she still smiled and pointed at the space between her eyebrows and answered, "This topic. I can't say. Ning Fan's eyes changed. He was even more certain that the little demon girl's life in the divine void pavilion was not good. Even though there were countless doubts in his heart, he was unable to seek answers from the little demon girl's mouth. After thinking for a bit, Ning Fan asked a few more questions. As long as the questions were related to the secrets of the divine void pavilion, the little demon girl could not answer them. There were even many questions related to the little demon girl herself that she could not answer. If he forcefully answered, he would turn into ashes. Ning Fan sighed and did not continue asking questions. He fell into a short period of silence. After a moment of silence, he suddenly raised his palm and stroked the little demon girl's long hair. He firmly said, "You can't answer me these questions. I have my own methods to find out the answer. Master once taught me a sentence. Do you know what it is?" "Your master. Han Yuanji. What kind of messy things did he teach you?" the little demon girl casually asked. "Master said, as a man, you must protect the woman that you have slept with to death. If you are in trouble, I will not turn a blind eye to it." Even though Ning Fan's words were not serious, his expression was unprecedentedly serious. The little demon girl's heart skipped a beat for no reason. For a moment, she had a feeling that she wanted to be protected by Ning Fan. However, she had always relied on her own hands to do things and never relied on the help of others. That feeling was instantly suppressed by her. Instead, she revealed her usual unruly smile and said, "Don't take advantage of me. Even though I call you husband, I have never done the deed of a husband and wife with you. I don't need you to protect me. Even though I am a sacrificial offering, I have a good life. I will not encounter any great calamity, so you don't need to protect me." The little demon girl had not finished speaking when the entire space of the ninth star suddenly shook violently. Tens of thousands of purple flying insects suddenly flew into the space of the ninth star. They buzzed and rushed towards Ning Fan and the little demon girl. Before the little demon girl could react, Ning Fan had already hugged her waist and retreated. Ning Fan's eyes looked at the purple flying insects in the ninth star and the boundless starry sky outside the giant door. If he was not mistaken, these purple flying insects were transformed from the power of his medicine soul. It was a type of battle soul technique that could use the medicine soul's power to attack the enemy without leaving a trace. If one's medicine soul was not strong enough, they would not be able to see the attacks of these flying insects. Flying insects transformed from the battle soul technique. Destroy. Ning Fan also released the power of his medicine soul. Countless black butterflies appeared in the ninth star and rushed towards the purple flying insects. The black butterflies were the forms of Ning Fan's medicine soul. Their number was 10 times more than the purple flying insects, but they could only fight evenly with them. After the purple insects and the black butterflies collided, they turned into purple snowflakes and scattered. They piled up strangely and formed a purple snowman. The black butterflies broke their wings and dispersed. In the end, all the purple flying insects turned into purple snowflakes while 90% of the black butterflies were destroyed. After Ning Fan retreated, he stopped moving. Even though he had defeated tens of thousands of purple flying insects, he did not relax at all. With a sigh, he kept the power of his medicine soul and raised his hand. The memory-severing Dao sword was already in his hand. Without saying a word, he slashed at the purple snowman. Ning Fan sighed because he realized that the power of his medicine soul was far less powerful than the medicine soul of the owner of the purple flying insects. He could not eliminate the purple flying insects with his medicine soul. This slash used 120% of his divine ability, gathering the 108,000 illusory sword radiance in one slash. With Ning Fan's mid-Ghost Profound Realm cultivation base, even an ordinary peak Ghost Profound Realm cultivator would have a hard time withstanding the power of this slash. After this slash, the entire ninth star was immediately filled with countless illusory swords and all of them rushed towards the purple snowman. Just as the empty eyes of the snowman lit up with some spiritual light, it was hit by the countless sword rays. It let out a low roar and was finally destroyed by the sword rays, turning into specks of purple light and dispersing. At this moment, Ning Fan finally heaved a sigh of relief. He kept the memory-severing Dao sword back into his body and looked at the starry sky outside the giant door with a solemn expression. These purple flying insects had flown in from the outside. Could that ability just now be a battle soul technique? Speaking of which, little Fan, when did you break through to the mid-Ghost Profound Realm? Why don't I know about it? The little demoness nestled in Ning Fan's arms, but her heart was beating rapidly. She was not a pill refinement master and did not have a strong medicine soul. Thus, she could not see those purple flying insects clearly. However, she could sense the power of those flying insects. If it wasn't for Ning Fan's swift actions that killed those flying insects and the snowman that they transformed into, she would certainly be severely injured by them. That ability of those flying insects is indeed a battle soul technique. It was performed by a pill refinement cultivator in the Primal Pill Star region. Senluo has already arrived at the Primal Pill Star region. Perhaps, there will be a tough battle here. As soon as Ning Fan finished speaking, he did not say anything else. The little demoness knitted her brows and also looked at the starry sky outside the giant door. At this moment, Sun Luo had already arrived outside the primal pill star region. There were nearly 10 million cultivators standing in the surrounding starry sky. All of them were the troops of the primal pill star region. Among this group of cultivators, the lowest cultivation base was at the void fragmentation realm. There were more than 100 true immortal realm cultivators. Among this group of cultivators, 30 to 40% of them were pill refinement masters. In the center of the group of cultivators, there was an elderly man with red eyebrows. He wore purple robes and was sitting on a purplish-red rhinoceros. He was holding a horsetail whisk magic treasure. The tip of the horsetail whisk was not made of hemp but flowing with purple flames. His body was surrounded by purple snowflakes which were formed by the power of his medicine soul. The tens of thousands of purple flying insects that had just entered the ninth star space were cast by this person. However, it was just a small part of his ability. This elderly man with red eyebrows had the cultivation base of the fourth tribulation of the eternal era. His name was Do Shi and he was quite famous in the eastern heaven immortal world. Wherever his eyes could see, the starry sky was filled with countless purple flying insects. There were not just hundreds of millions, billions or even tens of billions of them. Fortunately, it was only tens of thousands of flying insects that attacked Ning Fan. He was still able to resist them. If it was all the flying insects, Ning Fan would probably die under this person's battle soul ability. If all the flying insects in this starry sky attacked at the same time, no one below the immortal emperor realm would be able to resist it. The primal pill star region is not a place for you to behave atrociously. Sun Luo. Even though you are strong, you are not a pill refinement master. You may not be able to resist my stem borer returns to snow technique. As soon as Do Shi saw Sun Luo, his eyes turned cold. He raised his hand and pointed at Sun Luo with the horsetail whisk in his hand. Stem borer returns to snow. Are you referring to these annoying flies? Sun Luo snorted disdainfully. He suddenly jumped off the destruction beast and stepped on the blood-red flames. A devil roar soared to the sky. This devil roar contained the devil intent of his entire life. As soon as the blood-red sound circle spread out, a large number of primal core realm cultivators immediately died. There were even countless flying insects that died under Sun Luo's devil roar amidst the buzzing sound circle. After being hit by the blood-red sound circle, immortal King Do Shi's face immediately turned unnaturally red. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. He coughed out blood and fell off the rhinoceros. His eyes were filled with shock. The snowflakes that were circling around him also collapsed. Impossible. You were definitely not strong to this extent back then. Are you here today to destroy the Supreme Pill Star region again? If that's the case, even if I die, I will protect the Supreme Pill Star region and fight to the death with you. Do Shi swallowed his blood and glared at Sun Luo angrily. He did not show much fear. The corners of Sun Luo's mouth curled up. He did not attack to kill Do Shi. He just stood where he was, under the horrified gazes of millions of cultivators. He snorted coldly and sent a voice transmission to Do Shi. Do Shi, you were not my match back then. Now, you are even less of a match for me. Ask your master to come out and see me. I have an agreement with him. I have already found part of what he wants. I am here today for this. As soon as he heard that Sun Luo had found what his master wanted, Do Shi's eyes immediately changed. After pondering for a while, Do Shi made a decision. He sent a voice transmission to the cultivators around him, ordering them to disperse in the starry sky and make way for him to enter the primal pill star region. Then, he gritted his teeth and cupped his fists at Sun Luo. Since you have already found what my master wants, you are a friend and not an enemy. Come with me to see my master. As soon as he finished speaking, Do Shi got on his rhinoceros and gave Sun Luo a deep look. With a leap, he flew towards the central region of the primal pill star region. However, he was not looking at Sun Luo. Instead, he was looking at Ning Fan, who was in the 9th star of the Sun Luo. Previously, when he used the Stembora returns to snow technique, it seemed like he was attacking Sun Luo by force. In fact, he had already sent a few purple insects into the space of the 9th star of the Sun Luo, intending to ambush Sun Luo and give him a fatal blow. He did not expect that there were actually 2 immortal cultivators hiding in the space of the 9th star of the Sun Luo. One of them was at the early mortal profound realm while the other was at the mid-ghost profound realm. The mid-ghost profound realm cultivator was quite powerful. He actually killed all the tens of thousands of purple insects that he had sent into the 9th star of the Sun Luo. One should know that even an ordinary early crossing truth realm cultivator would not be able to kill tens of thousands of flying insects in one go. Since when did a ghost profound realm cultivator who could match Du Zhen appear in the eastern heaven immortal world? Do Shi muttered to himself. After a while, he put this matter to the back of his mind. After all, no matter how powerful that ghost profound realm cultivator was, he was not worthy of an immortal king like him paying too much attention to him. Sun Luo jumped onto the destruction beast expressionlessly and followed behind Do Shi. They flew towards the central region of the primal pill star region. His lips curled into a faint smile. He had really underestimated Do Shi. He did not expect that he would actually be plotted against by this person and send tens of thousands of purple insects into the 9th star. If Ning Fan did not help him, he would probably also be plotted against by this person and suffer some injuries. I never owe favors. Since he helped me, no matter what his motive is, I owe him a favor. He seems to be a pill refinement master. If that's the case, I can ask for some things from that primal pill star realm old man and give them to him to repay his favor. Sun Luo thought. The direction that Sun Luo and Do Shi were heading towards was the central region of the primal pill star region. Through the giant door, Ning Fan looked at the distant starry sky. In that direction, there was a sea of stars that was formed by the convergence of scarlet starlight. At the center of that sea of stars, there were ancient ruins that floated in the middle of the sea of stars. Among the countless ancient cities, there was only one that was still flowing with immortal divine light. There was an ancient altar on it which could open up a passage of time and space that led directly to an ancient secret place. Ning Fan had long heard of the name of that secret place. Its name was the Supreme Pill Sacred Region. At this moment, in that ancient divine city, a purplish golden round pill was hovering quietly in the middle of the divine palace. That pill was 1 million zhang in size. It was hard to imagine what kind of giant the pill refinement master who concocted this pill was to actually be able to concoct such a gigantic pill. All of a sudden, the purplish golden pill flashed and disappeared without a trace. Inside the divine palace, an elderly man with purple hair and long ears was left. His body was sometimes surrounded by monstrous devil qi and sometimes by dense immortal qi. The long-eared elderly man's eyes were filled with joy. Through the divine palace, he looked at Do Shi and Sun Luo who were outside the boundless void space with a smile on his face. I didn't expect that little Sun Luo could really find the 3 items that I need. I just don't know which one he found. Is it the pill god's fragment of the immemorial pill devil? Or is it the beginning, nirvana and desolate 3 chi of the ancient immortal saint? Or, the yin-yang locket which contains one of the 9 great secret keys of the ancient heavenly desolate ancient realm? If the first item can help me break through the shackles of my pill devil body and attain a higher cultivation realm, it will naturally be the best. If it's the second item, I will have the chance to step into the legendary 3rd step of Tao cultivation, which is to return to immortality and become a saint. But if it's the 3rd item... As he spoke, the long-eared elderly man's eyes suddenly burned with passion. That passion was even more fervent than when he mentioned the first 2 items. If there's the 3rd item, I can summon one of the 9 great secret keys and use the hidden ancient sacred passage of the Supreme Pill Sacred Region to cross to one of the 9 great secret realms of the ancient heavenly desolate ancient realm. If that's the case, then I... The long-eared elderly man suddenly stopped speaking and looked out of the divine palace. Far away from the divine city. In the sky above the sea of stars, the Do Shi and Sen Luo had already arrived outside the divine city. He, after so many years, little friend, you are still as elegant as ever. The long-eared elderly man chuckled. His figure flashed and appeared outside the divine city. He stood in the starry sky with his hands behind his back, looking at Sen Luo with a smile. Sen Luo also smiled, but it was a sneer. He said that he found one of the 3 items that the long-eared elderly man needed, but it was just a lie. He did find the fragment of the pill god left behind by the immemorial pill devil, but the spirituality of the fragment had already withered and was no longer useful. This item might not be enough to fulfill his wish. Even if he really found the item that the long-eared elderly man needed, he might not be able to fulfill his wish. This long-eared elderly man had always been good at turning his back on people. If he wanted to fulfill his wish, he would most likely need to use force. I wonder which treasure little friend has found this time. The long-eared elderly man chuckled and asked. Sen Luo didn't say much. He flipped his hand and took out a brocade box and threw it to the long-eared elderly man. The long-eared elderly man caught the brocade box and didn't open it. He only released the power of his medicine soul and sensed the item inside through countless profound restrictions. His expression was overjoyed at first, but after a moment, it became extremely gloomy. With a sneer, the aura of the 7th eternal tribulation swept out and snorted at Sen Luo. Is this the sincerity that you were talking about? Are you toying with this old man? Do you really think that because you are from the godly void pavilion, this old man won't dare to touch you? Under that pressure, not to mention the battle rhino immortal king, the purple flame rhinoceros under him and the destruction beast under Sen Luo's feet, their aura became chaotic. Only Sen Luo's aura remained still, unafraid of the long-eared elderly man's aura. Primal pill, I've already brought the thing you wanted. Where is the thing I want? Chapter 785. As soon as he heard Sen Luo's question, the long-eared old man was so angry that he laughed instead. You used this item to make a fool out of me. How dare you try to borrow my devil sealing board? What wishful thinking you have. Even though this item is a fragment of the immemorial pill devil's god of pills, its spiritual nature has been greatly damaged. It can no longer be used. Forget it. Leave this item and you can get lost. For the sake of this item, I won't hold you accountable for making a fool out of me. As soon as he finished speaking, the long-eared old man flipped his hand and kept the brocade box that contained the fragment of the god of pills. Then, he flicked his sleeve at Sen Luo. All of a sudden, the figure of a gigantic white ape appeared behind him. Without saying a word, it threw a punch at Sen Luo. In the 9th star, Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He clearly recognized that the gigantic white ape was the manifestation of the long-eared old man's medicine soul power. The strength of the ape's attack contained the vast aura force of the 7th tribulation immortal emperor. The starry sky outside the divine city trembled violently in an instant. The force of the attack gathered towards the gigantic ape's fist which carried traces of silver rainbow light. As soon as the rhinoceros saw its master attacking in anger, its expression changed. It immediately rode the fire rhinoceros away from Sen Luo's side and went behind its master. Its eyes were filled with fear and respect as it was afraid of being affected by the attack. The destruction beast's eyes became nervous. With its cultivation base, it could naturally see how terrifying the attack of the gigantic ape was. It could easily negate the power of this galaxy. Sen Luo was the only one who remained unmoved. It was as if he had already expected that the long-eared old man would devour his god of pills fragment and attack to chase him away. As soon as the gigantic ape's punch was thrown, a series of deafening sonic booms immediately resounded in the boundless starry sky. Silver light covered the sky and covered the earth. Sen Luo's entire body was engulfed by the light of the fist. However, he merely raised his hand and his eyes turned cold. Then, he clawed down with his 5 fingers. The force of his claw immediately turned into a sea of blood-red flames that could destroy heaven and earth. The blood-red flames then turned into a gigantic blood-red hand with sharp fingernails which glowed with blood-red devil light. It clawed at the incoming fist light and shattered it. The moment the fist light was shattered, an earth-shattering wave swept across all directions. Many ruins and ancient cities that were floating in the starry sky were directly destroyed by that terrifying wave. Sen Luo stood proudly on the destruction beast and sneered at the long-eared old man. The long-eared old man's eyes were shocked at first, and then he revealed a gloomy expression and snorted coldly. "I didn't expect you to be so powerful after so many years. It's a pity that you lost all your Emperor Qi back then and can't break through to the immortal Emperor realm in this life. If it wasn't for that, this old man would really be wary of you. You are not. Even Jin Yuan and Jin Yuan are not your match. But unfortunately, I is. I, Sen Luo, I can't. It's impossible for me to lend you the demon sealing roll. If you still have some self-awareness, get out of the primal core star zone now. Don't anger me, otherwise. Humph. The long-eared as. Of the Sen, of the Li, as, the giant apes, the old man said. However, just as he turned around, his bag of holding trembled slightly. Then, the long-eared old man's expression changed dramatically, revealing a look of disbelief. He stopped in his tracks, his lips moved, but no sound came out. He was transmitting his voice, but it was unknown who he was transmitting it to. After. The old man. After, he. Lu, the. And. He turned around and looked at Sen Luo. His eyes were no longer as gloomy as before. He said with a kind smile. Little friend, you are joking with me. I was careless and almost fell out with you. Since you found the yin-yang locket, why didn't you take it out earlier? Why tease me with this broken pill god's fragment? Forget it, since you found the yin-yang locket, this old man will borrow your demon sealing board. What's wrong with that? Give me the yin-yang locket. The long-eared old man's eyes were full of enthusiasm. He had an item with him. It reminded him that Sen Luo had the aura of the yin-yang locket. The yin-yang locket had recognized Ning Fan as its master. Ning Fan kept it in his dantian. Even the long-eared old man couldn't sense the locket. However, the item in the long-eared old man's body was related to the yin-yang locket. It could sense the locket's aura on Sen Luo. It was just that it couldn't find where Sen Luo hid it. The long-eared old man only knew that the yin-yang locket was on Sen Luo. He didn't know that the locket was hidden in Ning Fan's body, and Ning Fan was hiding in Sen Luo's 9th star. Sen Luo saw the long-eared old man change from arrogance to humility and asked for the yin-yang locket. His eyes didn't change, but his heart was full of doubts. He didn't remember having the yin-yang locket. With Sen Luo's intelligence, countless thoughts flashed through his mind. He didn't think that the long-eared old man's words were baseless. If the long-eared old man said that he had the yin-yang locket, then he most likely had it. To be precise, it wasn't on him. It was on either Ning Fan or the little demoness. He suddenly remembered the information that Mu Tu gave him. It mentioned that Ning Fan was a cultivator of the yin-yang transformation. In a split second, Sen Luo was very sure that the yin-yang locket was on Ning Fan. I didn't expect the legendary ancient Chaos Emperor treasure to be on this child. With this treasure, the yin-yang transformation is no longer an inferior merit law. It is the best merit law. This child is the inheritor of the ancient Chaos Emperor. Interesting. Although Sen Luo was an enemy of the Godly Void Pavilion for some reason, he was still a cultivator of the Godly Void Pavilion. He naturally knew the entanglement between the godly void ancestor and the ancient chaos emperor. He knew that the yin-yang locket was the emperor treasure of the ancient chaos emperor. It was helpful in cultivating the yin-yang transformation. However, he didn't know that the yin-yang locket hid an ancient secret that only the long-eared old man knew. He didn't know why the long-eared old man wanted the yin-yang locket, but he didn't care. He didn't plan to give the locket to the long-eared old man. There were two reasons. First, Sun Luo knew the long-eared old man's personality well. Even if he took the yin-yang locket from Ning Fan and gave it to the long-eared old man might not keep his promise and give him the devil's sealing board. Second, to Sun Luo, the devil's sealing board wasn't the most important thing to attack the heavenly prison. Ning Fan was his most important ancient god vessel. If he took away Ning Fan's yin-yang locket, he would definitely fall out with Ning Fan. Without the help of a three apertures ancient god, the chances of him achieving his goal would be slim. After weighing the pros and cons, even if Sun Luo guessed that Ning Fan had the yin-yang locket, he wouldn't take it away and give it to the long-eared old man. I don't have the yin-yang locket with me and I don't plan to talk nonsense with you anymore. I have already brought you the immemorial pill devil's pill god's fragment. I will definitely take this devil's sealing board today. You have to give it to me whether you want to or not. As soon as Sun Luo finished speaking, he suddenly raised his hand and clawed at the starry sky, displaying the soul extraction technique. Even though there were galaxies in this starry sky, there were no cultivation planets. There were only ancient cities floating in the sky. Logically speaking, it was impossible to extract the star's soul in this place. However, Sun Luo displayed the soul extraction technique in this place. What he extracted was not the star's soul but the starry sky soul. Star, starry sky. It was just a difference of one word, but the meaning was completely different. Above the four heavens, there were many immortal cultivators who could extract the star soul, but there were very few who could extract the starry sky soul. It was because the stars had form while the starry sky had no form. Only Sun Luo who had a deep understanding of the Tao of Void could extract the star's soul from the void of the starry sky. At the moment when Sun Luo extracted the entire starry sky soul, the starry sky of this star region instantly lost its spirituality. All the stars in the sky actually stopped moving. After swallowing the starry sky soul in one gulp, Sun Luo's aura force suddenly skyrocketed, soaring all the way to the seventh tribulation of the eternal era. Extracting the starry sky soul. How is this possible? The long-eared elderly man, the battle rhino immortal king and the little demoness were shocked. Even Ning Fan was deeply shocked. All of a sudden, Ning Fan's understanding of the soul extraction technique actually improved tremendously. The soul extraction technique was divided into different levels. There were Earth soul extraction, Void soul extraction, Sun Moon Star soul extraction and Heavenly Tao soul extraction. However, each level of the soul extraction technique had its own cultivation realm. For example, when Ning Fan was corroded by Great Emperor Mo Luo in the past, Lightning Emperor Tai Su saved him and imparted him his cultivation realm. At that time, Mo Luo displayed the ability to extract the Heavenly Tao soul while Ning Fan used Tai Su's magic power to display the ability to extract the Sixth Tao soul. The Sixth Tao soul and the Heavenly Tao soul were essentially the same level of the soul extraction technique. The only difference was that the Heavenly Tao only had one soul while the Sixth Tao soul had more souls. The Sixth Tao soul extraction technique could be seen as an even stronger ability that was derived from using the Heavenly Tao soul extraction technique to its limit. It was the same for the Starry Sky soul extraction technique. The great momentum of the sun, moon and stars was not only contained in the cultivation planet itself but also hidden in the orbit of the cultivation planet. In the vast starry sky, the orbit of the sun, moon and stars were hidden as well as the souls of the sun, moon and stars. Extracting the souls from the cultivation planet would only extract a small number of the souls. By extracting the souls from the starry sky, one could extract all the souls in one go, making it impossible for the cultivation planet to even move in a circular orbit. Traces of enlightenment filled Ning Fan's mind, but he forcefully suppressed them. He knew that this was not the right time to comprehend the soul extraction technique. There were still some doubts in his mind that he had yet to get an answer to. He really wanted to know how the long-eared old man sensed the qi of the yin-yang locket. Just now, when the long-eared old man sensed the yin-yang locket, the locket actually trembled slightly. Ning Fan could not help but suspect that the long-eared old man had some kind of ability or secret treasure that allowed him to locate the locket. To Ning Fan, this was a bad news. The long-eared old man was obviously determined to get his hands on the yin-yang locket, and he even had a way to sense the locket's existence. Fortunately, Ning Fan was currently hiding in the 9th star and did not directly reveal himself. Otherwise, the long-eared old man would definitely attack him for the yin-yang locket and snatch it away. The long-eared old man was actually a great emperor with a mysterious background. A primal core great emperor. Before this, Ning Fan never knew that such a great emperor was hiding in the eastern heaven. How did the primal core great emperor sense that I have the yin-yang locket on me? What's his purpose for wanting the yin-yang locket so badly? With Sen Luo's intelligence, he most likely guessed that I have the yin-yang locket with me. However, he did not snatch it from me. Is it because I still have some value to him and he can't afford to offend me? In the future, will he make things difficult for me because of the yin-yang locket? Countless questions flashed across Ning Fan's mind. His eyes gradually filled with vigilance. This yin-yang locket had been with him for his entire life. No matter who comes to snatch it from him, he would never hand it over. In the galaxy, Sen Luo's aura skyrocketed after he absorbed all the souls of the galaxy. He stared coldly at the long-eared old man. At this moment, his cultivation base was no longer weaker than the long-eared old man. Thus, he was naturally not afraid of the latter at all. Today, he was here to obtain the Devil Conferment ranking. Since the long-eared old man was unwilling to hand over the item obediently, he could not blame him for taking it away by force. Sen Luo leaped off the destruction beast. His eyes turned sharp and his body shone with a blood-red light. The entire galaxy was illuminated by the boundless blood-red light. In the entire star region, all the cultivators who were illuminated by the blood-red light immediately raised their eyes and pointed at the sky in a frenzy. This was the Tao image, staining the galaxy with blood. Sen Luo's Tao was slaughter, destruction, madness and staining the world with blood. Seeing Sen Luo's Tao image and his expression as if he was going to fight with all his might, the long-eared old man grunted and also took a step forward, releasing an earth-shattering Tao image. Above the galaxy, a silver light suddenly shone brightly. The shadow of an ancient giant ape wearing silver armor and holding a silver rod appeared. As soon as the giant ape shadow appeared, it let out a demonic roar, its battle intent shocking the heavens. This battle intent quickly swept across the entire primal core star region. The cultivators who were pointing at the sky and shouting suddenly woke up at this moment. Their eyes became clear. After they woke up, their eyes gradually filled with battle intent. It was as if they had been infected by the long-eared old man's Tao image. This was the Tao image, battle ape splitting the heavens. At this moment, the long-eared old man's Tao image was full of battle intent. He was not afraid of death. He was like an ancient god of war. Sen Luo's killing intent soared into the sky. His demonic will was unparalleled. He summoned the Chang and blood axe and chopped large areas of the ancient cities into pieces. The divine light in the long-eared old man's eyes faded. At the next moment, his demonic will also soared into the sky. His body swayed and turned into a 10 million zhang tall purple golden giant devil. He shattered the axe light with his fists. The true form of a primal core great sovereign is actually a pill devil. Ning Fan's eyes widened in surprise. The giant devil body that the long-eared old man had transformed into was the body of a pill devil. Sen Luo was strong but the long-eared old man was not weak either. He had achieved the immortal emperor realm with the body of a pill devil. He was already stronger than ordinary immortal emperors who had undergone the seventh tribulation of the eternal era. He could even put up a fight against an immortal emperor who had undergone the eighth tribulation of the eternal era. Even the god and void god emperors had to be wary of him. When he fought Sun Luo, they were evenly matched, and they were evenly matched. No one could intervene in this battle. Even the battle rhino immortal king and the destruction beast had already fled far away. Ning Fan and the little demoness naturally would not be able to intervene. The primal core star region was just a high-grade star region. How could it withstand the attacks of two immortal emperors? Every time Sun Luo and the long-eared old man exchanged blows, the shockwaves from their battle would directly shatter a few cultivation planets that were extremely far away. The time it took for an incense stick to burn passed. 2 hours had passed. The two of them had yet to determine the victor. However, the primal core star region was almost half destroyed. At this moment, the long-eared old man was panting heavily. His heart was filled with deep astonishment. He could not believe that Sun Luo had already become so powerful after 45 million years. In this battle, he was actually at a slight disadvantage. That little Sun Luo has dispersed his emperor chi. He will never be able to become an immortal emperor in this life, but he still has the strength to fight against an 8 tribulation immortal emperor. I can't believe he is so powerful. If he did not disperse his emperor chi in the past, even if he is not a 7 tribulation immortal emperor now, he would certainly be a peak 6 tribulation immortal emperor. I'm definitely not his match. This young man's strength is far beyond my expectations. The wise move is to lend him the devil conferral board and make peace with him. In this way, even if I lose the devil conferral board and the opening of the Supreme Pill's sacred region will be delayed for 100 years, it won't be a problem. However, this young man has the yin-yang locket. In order to obtain this item, I must fight with him today no matter what. The long-eared old man's eyes became ruthless. He pushed Sun Luo back with a punch and retreated from his pill devil body. With a flip of his hand, he took out a black iron token, gritted his teeth, and sent a seal into the token. In the next instant, the ancient city that he was hiding in suddenly emitted a divine light that shot into the sky. Within the divine light, a golden devil conferral board with monstrous demonic aura suddenly appeared and suddenly expanded in the starry sky. The devil conferral board was filled with ancient demonic characters that were as small as tadpoles. Once it expanded, tens of thousands of rays of demonic light immediately swept towards Sun Luo's head. In the starry sky, countless ancient demonic roars immediately sounded, and all of them came from the devil conferral board. After being swept by the demonic light, Sun Luo felt intense pain all over his body. In just an instant, countless injuries appeared on his body. He was not angry, but happy. What a great devil conferral board. That primal core old man clearly only has 1 list, but he was able to injure me. With 10 lists in hand, demons can be sealed at the top. This rumor doesn't seem to be false. Sun Luo sneered, and his figure moved, avoiding the tens of thousands of rays of demonic light. He raised his hand and pointed to the sky, and millions of blood-colored stars appeared, quickly healing his injuries. Seeing that his attack was successful, the long-eared old man nodded in satisfaction. Taking out the devil conferral board from the seal of the temple would delay the opening of the Supreme Dan Sanctuary for 100 years. But if he could use this treasure to severely injure Sun Luo and seize the yin-yang locket, so what if it delayed the opening of the sanctuary? Sun Luo, I'll give you one last chance. Quickly hand over the yin-yang locket. Don't force me to kill you. The long-eared old man threatened in a low voice. Kill you? With just you? Sun Luo snorted disdainfully. He could not stand being threatened by others. The devil conferral board had a great origin. Legend had it that there was a saint in ancient times who created 10 great devil conferrals. If they were combined, it would be the weapon of a saint, and if they were separated, it would be the supreme treasure of an emperor. Now that the long-eared old man had this treasure, even if it was only one list, Sen Luo had to admit that if he did not use his trump card, it would be difficult for him to defeat the long-eared old man. With a decision in his mind, Sen Luo suddenly took a step forward and activated the Quicksand Ancestor's 3 apertures divine power in his body. In an instant, a time Dao connotation that could erode everything was emitted from Sen Luo's body. The time Dao connotation blended with Sen Luo's void Dao, separating life and death, freeing the real from the void, and immediately turned into an unimaginably powerful force. At this moment, Sen Luo's magic power was still at the level of the eternal 7th tribulation, but his aura was strong enough to make the long-eared old man tremble. That aura was not something a cultivator at the 2nd step could possess. It was an aura that could sever reincarnation, an aura that only an ancient sage could possess. Behind Endless Forest, a faintly discernible ring was slowly forming, step by step. This ring was called the Original Saint Ring, and it was a phenomenon that could only be triggered by an ancient sage. Now, it was accidentally triggered by Sen Luo. A strong sense of shock immediately rose in the long-eared old man's eyes. Before he could react, Sen Luo had already appeared beside the long-eared old man with a speed that was almost ghostly. He raised his hand, and before anyone could see how he did it, he had already snatched the demon's sealing board away. His fist was covered in blood. On the other hand, a bloody hole suddenly appeared on the long-eared old man's chest, as if he had been punched by someone. What terrified the long-eared old man was that even he didn't see clearly when he was injured by Sen Luo. If Sen Luo wanted to, he would have directly killed his pill god. The long-eared old man covered the bloody hole in his chest and retreated in the starry sky, trembling all over. The fear in his eyes couldn't be concealed anymore. I originally didn't believe that Sen Luo could kill the 9th Nether Emperor. After all, the nascent soul of an immortal emperor is extremely difficult to kill. But now, it seems that he really killed the 9th Nether Emperor. If he has the ability, he can kill me. Sen Luo turned his gaze and looked coldly at the long-eared old man. He said, "My power of time is limited, and the amount of reincarnation energy that I can synthesize is also limited. I don't want to waste it on you. Do you understand?" This sentence was honest and also a threat. Sen Luo understood that if he wanted to kill the long-eared old man, he would have to waste a large amount of the power of time. That power was limited. Every time he used it, it would decrease a little. He wanted to save it for something more important. Compared to that matter, the long-eared old man's life or death was not important to him at all. What was important was that he had already obtained the Devil Conferral ranking. That was enough. The long-eared old man immediately broke out in cold sweat after being stared at by Sen Luo. Just now, he still dared to call Sen Luo a kid. But now, he was afraid of offending Sen Luo by looking at him directly. He understood that Sen Luo had just used his trump card. That power was very limited, but it allowed him to display the power of a saint. Such a Sen Luo was in existence that he didn't dare to provoke. Even though Sen Luo had taken away his Devil Conferral ranking, he would never dare to take it back. The yin-yang locket isn't in my hands. What you sensed earlier is wrong. Sen Luo said coldly. He said that just to get rid of some trouble. Perhaps, he was trying to help Ning Fan get rid of the trouble. What? The yin-yang locket isn't in your hands? The long-eared old man looked at Sen Luo in disbelief. Even though he believed that his perception was not wrong, he believed that Sen Luo wouldn't lie even more. A person like Sen Luo wouldn't deny any evil deeds he had done. It was impossible for him to lie. Since he said that the locket wasn't in his hands, it must not be in his hands. Damn it! Yin Ji must have sensed wrongly. The yin-yang locket isn't in Sen Luo's hands. Why did I fight with Sen Luo to the death just now? The long-eared old man didn't know that Sen Luo was deliberately misleading him even though he didn't lie. The yin-yang locket wasn't in Sen Luo's hands, but it was in his 9th star. It belonged to Ning Fan. This sentence instantly dispelled the long-eared old man's desire to covet the yin-yang locket. In this way, even if I die under the heaven-suppressing bell, I won't implicate this kid. I don't owe favors in this life and I won't owe favors in death. Sen Luo kept the devil's sealing chart and leaped back to the destruction beast. Then, he turned into a rainbow and left. Looking at Sen Luo's departing light, the long-eared old man's eyes were still filled with fear. He didn't stop Sen Luo. Suddenly, he saw Sen Luo's light turn again and return. The long-eared old man immediately complained and asked with a bitter smile. I wonder why fellow Taoist Sen Luo returned. I heard that you have a few pills called soul refining pills. They can increase the efficacy of a pill refinement master's medicine soul. Just leave them to me. Sen Luo's face was expressionless, but the long-eared old man complained again. He did have a lot of soul-refining pills in the past. However, he had consumed all of them in order to cultivate. Now, he only had a few pills left in his hands. I wonder if the remaining few soul-refining pills can satisfy Sen Luo's request. Chapter 786. Amidst the starry sky, Sen Luo's red hair danced in the wind. He seemed to be lost in thought as he rode the Annihilation Beast away from the Primal Core Star region and headed toward the East Sea Star region. Along the way, he had traveled through almost a quarter of the Eastern Heaven Immortal world. Only now did he head to the Eastern Sea. Naturally, he had made thorough preparations. He was still rampaging through the starry sky. He had beheaded the 9 underworlds, injured Jin Yuan, and obtained the Origin Shocking Pill's frightening battle achievements. Among the Eastern Sky's powerhouses, this news was crazily circulating. Each and every one of the Eastern Sky's powerhouses, who in the past hadn't been shaken by anything, were now endlessly shocked. Among the 16 emperors of the Eastern Sky, Sha Di had not appeared in the world for a long time, Zhou Yu had already perished, and Zhen Yuan Di was seriously injured and was currently in seclusion in his cave to suppress his injuries. Emperor Yuan Dan was not one of the 16 emperors that the world knew. Apart from the God and Void emperors, the other 11 Eastern Sky Big Emperors all had grave expressions on their faces. The 8 and 9 Tribulation Immortal Emperors might not be too afraid of Sen Luo, but the 6 and 7 Tribulation Immortal Emperors were shocked and fearful after hearing about Sen Luo's shocking achievements. After the fear passed, many great emperors lived in seclusion, not daring to leave their cave dwellings without permission in order to avoid stirring up trouble. But there were also several great emperors who left their star fields and rushed towards the Hollow God realm. Some wanted to go to the East Ocean Star region to watch the show and fish in troubled waters. Others wanted to besiege Sen Luo and settle their old grudges. At this moment, the ordinary cultivators of the Eastern Sky might not have noticed the upheaval in the Eastern Sky caused by Sen Luo. However, those almighties were all disturbed by Sen Luo. In the 9th star, Ning Fan held a jade pill bottle in his hand. His eyes were filled with passion and hesitation while his brows were tightly knitted together. There were 5 9 Revolution medicinal pills in the bottle, and all of them were gold pills of the 9 Revolution medicinal pills. Normally, only old monsters above the thought-fragmenting realm would need to consume the 9 transformations golden pill. However, because there were very few 9th Revolution pill masters in the 4 heavens, the 9 transformations golden pill was usually priceless. The 5 9 Revolution golden pills in the bottle were called soul refining pills. They had the miraculous effect of improving an alchemist's medicine soul. This pill was requested by Sen Luo and he then gave it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan held the pill bottle in his hand and remained silent. To him, the effect of these 5 soul-refining pills was excellent. It could greatly enhance the level of his medicine soul, which in turn, would raise the level of his alchemy technique. I didn't expect that the cold-blooded and heartless Sen Luo Immortal King would give you a pill. This is unbelievable. The little demoness looked at Ning Fan's with a meaningful smile. The Shao clan had been destroyed by Sen Luo, but that was countless years ago and had little to do with the little demon girl. Even though the little demoness didn't like Sen Luo, she wouldn't stop Ning fans from obtaining the fortune from Sen Luo for this reason. You have a grudge against Sen Luo? Every time you mention his name, there is hatred in your eyes. Even though it's very faint, I can still see some of it. Ning Fan asked. It's not a grudge, it's just something that happened 45 million years ago. Even if there is a grudge, what does it have to do with me? It's just that the Shao clan declined because of this person. If it wasn't for the decline of the Shao clan, I wouldn't have chosen this path. In my heart, there is still hatred towards this person. The little demoness' eyes dimmed, then finally revealed a hint of worry. Sen Luo rampaged in the eastern sky and fought with 3 immortal emperors. At this moment, he went straight to the godly void pavilion. To the little demoness, whether Sen Luo destroyed the godly void pavilion or not, she didn't care. What she cared about was whether this battle with Sen Luo would implicate the Shao clan that had declined for a long time again. The little demoness was worried, but how could Ning Fan not be worried? What he was worried about was how to deal with the aftermath. If he helped Sen Luo to create chaos, would the experts of the eastern sky bear a grudge against him? Would the godly void pavilion put him on the wanted list because of this? He made a deal with Sen Luo. Would he be able to make Sen Luo fulfill his promise, and would he be able to leave Sen Luo's evil clutches safely? Thinking of this, Ning Fan couldn't help but sigh. He promised to help Sen Luo become the vessel of the ancient gods. Now, Sen Luo had already publicly become the enemy of the godly void pavilion. Moreover, he had also caused chaos in the eastern sky and offended several immortal emperors. His enemies were everywhere in the eastern sky. Therefore, he must never let the world know that he had once helped Sen Luo. Once he was mistaken as Sen Luo's accomplice, it would certainly attract the pursuit of a large number of old monsters. He had an agreement with Sen Luo that he would be Sen Luo's vessel of the ancient gods. After that, Sen Luo would help the little demoness cure the poison. After witnessing Sen Luo's strength time and time again, Ning Fan's fear towards him grew deeper and deeper. The jade slips that were hidden in his sleeves had already been secretly changed. It was no longer the jade slips that summoned the 16 ancient puppets. Instead, it was the jade slips that summoned Sha Di to descend. Before Sen Luo fought against the divine void 2 emperors, Ning Fan still treated Sen Luo as an ordinary immortal king. He thought that the 16 ancient puppets were enough to suppress Sen Luo. At this moment, Ning Fan had a deep understanding of Sen Luo's strength. Even the 8th Tribulation Immortal Emperor might not necessarily be able to stop him. With just the 16 ancient puppets of Sha Di, it was impossible for him to win against this person. If by any chance, he would fall out with Sen Luo, he could only summon Sha Di to descend to save his life. Sen Luo's cultivation base is only at the 5th Tribulation Immortal Emperor realm, but he could already defeat all the emperors in Eastern Heaven. If I also reach the 5th Tribulation Immortal Emperor realm one day, would I have a way to be as strong as Sen Luo? Ning Fan sighed with emotion. Time passed in the blink of an eye. One day had passed. On this day, Ning Fan was not in a hurry to consume the soul-refining pill. Instead, he carefully guarded the little demoness beside him. His eyes were fixed on the starry sky outside the giant door, waiting for the arrival of the great battle. Within a day, Sen Luo's group traveled across nearly 100,000 star regions. In those low-grade star regions, there were no second-step cultivators guarding them. Almost no one knew about Sen Luo's existence. The cultivators of the low-grade star regions could only hear about the news that the grand formation of the domain-locking star region was destroyed by a terrifying ray of traveling light. However, they could not find out who the person who destroyed the formation was. In mid-grade star regions, there were usually only Life Immortal Realm experts guarding them. Life Immortal Realm old monsters did not receive the news quickly. Very few people knew that Sen Luo was rushing towards the eastern sea star region. When these Life Immortal Realm old monsters saw Sen Luo's terrifying traveling light, all of them were terrified. It was hard for them to imagine what kind of powerful devil lord the owner of this traveling light was. He could actually destroy the grand formation of a mid-grade star region with just a ray of traveling light. In high-grade star regions, there were true immortals guarding them. However, whenever Sun Luo passed by a high-grade star region, there would definitely be a true immortal realm cultivator leading a group of cultivators to make way for him. No one dared to stand in his way. The main stars of some high-grade star regions happened to be right in front of Sun Luo's traveling light. In order to prevent their main star from being destroyed by Sun Luo, those star lords had no choice but to carry out meticulous calculations. After that, they exerted all of their abilities to change the star orbit of their main star. The star maps of many high-grade star regions had undergone great changes due to the movement of their main star. The closer they got to the eastern sea star region, the colder Sun Luo's eyes became. As for the destruction beast beneath his feet, its eyes finally became complicated. It let out a soft cry as if it was unwilling to get involved in the dispute between Sun Luo and the divine void realm. Qianshuan, since you are unwilling to go against the divine void realm, I will naturally not force you. After we attack the heaven-suppressing bell, I will find a way to let you meet with Qinyu. As soon as he finished speaking, Sun Luo stroked the thumb ring on his finger and kept the destruction beast. Then, he flew forward alone with a slightly desolate expression. His silhouette was like that of a lone wolf. It was as if he had been wreaking havoc all by himself since a long time ago. The grand formations of each star region were destroyed by Sun Luo mercilessly. The eastern sea star region where the godly void pavilion was located was finally right in front of him. At this moment, the grand formations of the eastern sea star region were tightly opened. Its power was also activated to the maximum. Inside the grand formation, countless divine void realm cultivators were guarding it. The moment Sun Luo arrived, countless warning spiritual arrows were shot into the starry sky. At the next moment, the entire eastern sea star region was filled with the sound of drums. That drum was a war drum. The sound of the drum carried immortal divinity. It actually had a shocking restraining effect on devil sense and baleful qi. It was the unique ancient divine drum of the godly void pavilion. It could produce the sound of an ancient god that could intimidate devil cultivators. In the ninth star, when Ning Fan suddenly heard the sound of the drum, the baleful qi in his body suddenly showed signs of going out of control. His ancient devil bloodline, on the other hand, felt slightly suppressed by the sound of the drum. However, his ancient god heart gradually became excited under the sound of the drum. The innate ghost mask that he had refined into his body displayed its power at this moment and instantly stabilized Ning Fan's uncontrollable baleful qi. Ning Fan simply waved his hand and wiped it across his face, summoning the innate ghost mask. His black hair instantly turned silver. The sound of the drum could no longer disturb his mind. The unique ghost mask spiritual equipment of the Slaughter Palace. You actually became one of the ghost mask assassins of the Slaughter Palace. When the little demoness saw Ning Fan summoning the ghost mask, she was instantly surprised. She could not see through the strength of the innate ghost mask. Even so, it was enough to surprise her. After all, according to what she knew, in order to become one of the 800 ghost masks of the Slaughter Palace, one must at least be a true immortal realm expert. Before Du Zhen, there were very few people who could obtain the ghost mask as a reward. It was really not easy for Ning Fan to make an exception and obtain the ghost mask. Interesting. It's actually an innate spiritual equipment. After summoning the ghost mask, even I can't accurately judge his cultivation base. As for his appearance, I can't see through him at all. This kid is just a ghost profound realm expert, but he actually has so many heaven-defying means. When I was a ghost profound realm expert, I was far inferior to him. Sun Luo thought. This thought only appeared for a moment before it was put away by Sun Luo. He would not pay too much attention to Ning Fan. After all, there was only one person who could move his heart. The sonorous sound of the divine drum reverberated in his ears, causing him to involuntarily recall some of the past events. That year was 45 million years ago. That year, he dyed the eastern country with blood under the similar sound of the drum. That year, he caused his master to destroy both of his eyes. Therefore, in order to repay his master's kindness, he punished himself in the heavenly prison and imprisoned himself for 45 million years. His master had raised him for 450,000 years. He wanted to repay his master 100 times. Now that he had repaid his master's kindness, he only wanted to fulfill his last wish this time. This time, no one would be able to stop his madness. In the Eastern Sea Star region, the shadows of two emperors slowly appeared in the grand formation of the domain. Through the formation light, they stared at Sun Luo. One of them was filled with anger while the other one was sighing. They were the Divine Void Emperor who had rushed back to the Eastern Sea Star region after escaping from Senluo's dark prison technique. When Senluo's eyes met with the Void Emperor's, the madness in his eyes became even more violent. He said coldly, "Senior brother, if you hand over the heaven-suppressing bell, I can spare the Eastern Sea from turning into a river of blood." The Void Emperor closed his eyes and sighed. "It's impossible for me to give you the heaven-suppressing bell. I also won't watch you continue to make mistakes." As soon as he finished speaking, he was about to walk out of the grand formation to fight against Sun Luo. However, he was stopped by Divine Void Emperor. Divine Void Emperor harumphed coldly. "Void, you don't have to do it yourself. At this moment, Sun Luo has already arrived in the territory of my Eastern Sea Star region. I alone am enough to capture him alive." As soon as he finished speaking, Divine Void Emperor suddenly pointed forward. A huge golden war drum immediately appeared in the starry sky before him. With a wave of his hand, the golden light turned into drumsticks and landed in Divine Void Emperor's hand. Without a word, he hammered down on the war drum. The moment the drumsticks landed, the domain-locking grand formation of the entire Eastern Sea Star region shone with golden light and the roars of heavenly devils could be heard. In the starry sky, Divine Void Emperor's cold voice suddenly rang out. "Demon Ceiling, appear." Before Divine Void Emperor's voice had even faded, Sun Luo had already taken a huge step forward. With one step, he stomped on the empty starry sky. The power of this stomp seemed to have stepped on the veins of the entire Eastern Sea Star region. Immediately, countless blood flames spread out along the mysterious veins in the starry sky. With just one stomp, the entire Eastern Sea Star region began to tremble violently. Countless cracks appeared on the domain-locking grand formation and it began to crumble bit by bit. With just one stomp, hundreds of cultivation planets in the Eastern Sea Star region suddenly shattered without any warning. The devil roars that came from the domain-locking grand formation just now immediately turned into cries of pain and shock. Now, many devil creatures had directly lost their lives under Senluo's stomp. With just one stomp, he stomped on the Eastern Sea Star region and turned the sky and earth upside down. Divine Void Emperor's expression changed. He raised the drumsticks again and hammered the war drum with great force. In the starry sky, countless devil creatures that were as large as stars slowly appeared. Their bodies were bound by scarlet golden chains. There were only slightly more than 300 devil creatures. However, among these 300 devil creatures, there were actually 12 devil creatures that were comparable to devil emperors. Ning Fan was originally paying attention to the battlefield. However, when he saw one of the 12 devil creatures, his expression suddenly changed. That devil creature actually had 2 horns on its head, 6 wings on its back and a pair of ghost eyes between its brows. Its appearance was almost the same as Great Emperor Mo Luo. Just as Ning Fan was observing that devil creature, the devil creature also glanced at him and muttered to itself with a puzzled look. "Why do I feel like I can sense that Junior's chi? Is it an illusion?" Chapter 787. While the quasi-emperor devil that looked like Great Emperor Mo Luo was muttering to himself, Shen Space Emperor's drumming suddenly became more rapid. Along with the rapid drumming, mysterious runes appeared on the golden chains on the devils' bodies. Their eyes immediately turned blank as if they were being controlled by someone. The devil that looked like Mo Luo let out a muffled groan and its eyes instantly turned blank. In the ninth star, Ning Fan's expression became gloomy. When his eyes met the Quasi-Emperor devils, he clearly noticed the doubt in its eyes. There's no mistake. Even if this devil isn't the true body of Great Emperor Mo Luo, it must have some kind of connection with Mo Luo. Otherwise, it's impossible for it to look in my direction with a doubtful expression. Judging from its expression, it clearly sensed my chi. When the little demoness saw all the devils coming out and the strongest of them were at the Quasi-Emperor realm, she immediately exclaimed. My ancestor has given the order that the immortal king realm devils in the divine tomb must never be used. How would Shen Space Emperor dare to go against his ancestor's order and summon the Quasi-Emperor realm devils in the divine tomb to defend against the enemies? These devils were summoned from the divine tomb. Ning Fan's eyes flickered. There's a well of contract in the divine tomb. As long as you pay a certain price, you can summon devils from the devil abyss. It is said that devils come from the 9 great ancient devil abysses. However, we can't determine which devil abyss they come from exactly. After saying that, the little demoness shook her head and no longer dared to say anything else. The existence of the well of contract was not a secret. However, if she continues to talk about it, it might expose the secret of the Shen Space Emperor. Ning Fan's eyes slightly narrowed. At this moment, he had a vague guess. According to rumors, the 9 great devil abysses were respectively suppressing the 9 great ancient devils and devil ancestors. The devil that looked like Mo Luo probably came from the devil abyss that was suppressing Mo Luo. It was not that Shen Space Emperor had paid a certain price to make these devils obey him. Kill! Shen Space Emperor suddenly shouted coldly. 300 devils wearing chains stepped on the starry sky and surrounded Shen Luo. Those devils with lower cultivation bases surrounded the periphery and formed a devil formation. Devil chi gathered and turned into a purplish-black skull formation diagram. The 12 Quasi-Emperor realm devils stepped on the formation diagram and their aura force skyrocketed. All of a sudden, they raised their hands and the golden chains on their bodies were thrown from 12 different directions, binding Shen Luo tightly. The joint attack of the 12 demons was so fast that even a 7 tribulation immortal emperor would not be able to dodge it. The golden chain had the ability to suppress and subdue demons. It was called the primordial lock, and it was also a treasure. Once bound by this shackle, the more powerful the devil cultivator, the greater the suppression. The 12 Quasi-Emperor demonic creatures continued to transmit their magic power into the golden lock from afar, causing the binding force of the primordial chaos lock to grow stronger and stronger, gradually binding Shen Luo's flesh and blood. Shen Space Emperor nodded his head in satisfaction. He did not think that Shen Luo had the ability to break free of these 12 golden chains. Once we take down Shen Luo, I'll have to trouble the Void Emperor to lock him back into the sky prison. I hope you can borrow the power of the demons to take him down in one fell swoop, otherwise, the Void Emperor shook his head and sighed. Suddenly, his old eyes widened and he shouted at the Shen Space Emperor in disbelief, "Not good. Quickly recall the demons and remove the primordial chaos lock. Quick!" Unfortunately, when the Void Emperor spoke, he was already a step too late. Although Shen Luo was bound by the primordial chaos lock, there was no fear in his eyes. Whether it was the demons or the primordial chaos lock, everything was within his expectations. He opened his mouth slightly and 10,000 feet of demonic light immediately shot out from his mouth. It flew high up into the starry sky and turned into a treasure that shone with 10,000 feet of black light. It was a black demon list that was covered with tadpole-like ancient demonic characters. Once it was taken out, it immediately released a sea of demonic aura and evolved into 12 ink-colored bonefish. They were incomparably huge and descended from the sky. They opened their huge mouths and swallowed the 12 quasi-emperor demonic creatures. The aura of the bonefish was like that of a demon, and it was erratic. Its mouth was not big, but it seemed to be able to swallow the entire galaxy. Demon Sealing Carp. This treasure is the demon sealing list. Impossible, why does Sun Luo have such a powerful treasure? The Shin Space Emperor's expression changed drastically. Without a second word, he wanted to remove the war drum and recall the demons, but it was too late. Regardless of whether it was the 12 quasi-emperor demonic creatures or the other 300 demonic creatures, all of them instinctively revealed a look of fear. That fear originated from their instinctive fear towards the demon sealing list. In front of the demon sealing list, it was as if all the demons in the world were restrained by it and were unable to resist it. 3 quasi-emperor demonic creatures were swallowed alive by the flying ink bone fish, while 5 quasi-emperor demonic creatures were bitten to death by the flying ink bone fish and torn to pieces. The remaining 4 quasi-emperor demonic creatures attacked together and clashed with the flying ink bone fish. They suffered varying degrees of injuries and then turned to flee. The quasi-emperor demonic creature that looked like Mo Luo was among the 4 that turned to flee. A bright light flashed in Sun Luo's eyes, and with a jolt of his magic power, he broke free of the mixed yuan chains that were binding him. With a flip of his hand, he grabbed the 12 mixed yuan chains in his hand and threw them toward the 4 fleeing quasi-emperor demonic creatures without a word. The 4 demons were bound and unable to escape. The 12 flying ink bone fish immediately bit down on the 4 demons that were unable to move and tore them to pieces. After killing the 12 quasi-emperor demonic creatures, the flying ink bone fish immediately charged toward the other demonic creatures. In the blink of an eye, they had already torn the 300 demonic creatures to pieces. As the group of devils was annihilated, the devil diagram collapsed with a loud bang. The battle drum in front of Divine Emperor Shin Space was also destroyed. The grand formation of the Eastern Ocean Star region had also completely collapsed. The 300 demonic creatures died in an extremely short period of time. The black blood rain carried the fallen devil corpses and fell towards countless cultivation planets in the Eastern Ocean Star region. When the devil creature that looked like Great Emperor Mo Luo died, its physical body exploded into a mist of blood. A fist-sized devil chi crystal was peeled off from its body and mixed with the other devil corpses and fell towards a certain cultivation planet in the Eastern Ocean Star region. No one paid attention to it. Ning Fan was the only one who saw that devil chi crystal and identified the direction where it was falling. His eyes flashed and he secretly memorized the location of the planet. If he still has a chance after this battle, he would not mind searching for that devil chi crystal. Each of the Divine Void Realm experts was drenched in the black blood rain. All of them wore terrified expressions. The weakest of the 300 demonic creatures was at the true immortal realm, while the strongest was at the quasi-emperor realm. However, all of them died in Sun Luo's hands in just a short period of time. Before this, they had never seen a large number of true immortals or quasi-emperors falling. Today, however, they witnessed the deaths of 300 true immortals and 12 quasi-emperors at once. They had witnessed how terrifying Sun Luo was. Not good. The grand formation has been destroyed. This devil is going to invade the Eastern Ocean Star region. No one knew who shouted. At the next moment, all the Divine Void Realm cultivators began to feel terrified to varying degrees. Amidst the blood rain, Sun Luo raised his hand and kept the devil conferral board. His cold eyes swept across the group of Divine Void Realm cultivators, the Void Space Emperor who was sighing and the Shin Space Emperor who was in shock. At the next moment, he raised his hand and grabbed at the starry sky of the entire Eastern Ocean Star region. He extracted the soul of the starry sky and swallowed it. In an instant, his aura skyrocketed to the 7th Tribulation Realm. Without giving the group of Divine Void Realm cultivators any time to react, Sun Luo suddenly roared at the sky. Boundless blood-red flames spread out from under his feet. Circles of blood-red sound waves spread out from his body and spread far away in the starry sky. This roar carried the ferocious might of killing 300 demonic creatures. It was much stronger than the devil intent it had ever contained in the past. Its killing intent was boundless. With Senluo as the center, the starry sky collapsed in circles, setting off bolts of blood-red lightning. All the divine void realm experts in the area of collapse, whether they were first-step cultivators, second-step life immortals, or Dujin cultivators, had their physical bodies disintegrate and died under Senluo's roar. Among these people who died, there were even 11 or 12 disciples of the Shin Space Emperor. Golden flames of anger shot out of the Shin Space Emperor's eyes. The disciple he favored the most had just died at Senluo's hands. Senluo! You deserve to die. The Shin Space Emperor roared angrily into the sky. He flipped his hand and took out a golden pagoda. This golden pagoda was his Tao soldier. Shin Space Emperor raised his hand and raised the pagoda. Immediately, more than 40,000 rays of reddish gold light shot out from the pagoda. His Tao soldier was called the Creation Pagoda. It could repair damaged treasures and shoot out countless treasures as hidden weapons. These 40,000 rays of reddish gold light were all 12 Nirvana-acquired immortal treasures. The 40,000 treasures were shot out by the Shin Space Emperor as hidden weapons. They had the power to destroy heaven and earth. However, in Senluo's eyes, they were so disdainful. The 3 orifices flowing sand power that was hidden in his body was activated at this moment. Behind him, an extremely exaggerated Genesis Saint ring suddenly appeared. An extremely powerful aura suddenly burst forth from his body. It was as if an invisible mountain had collapsed and pressed down on the entire East Sea galaxy. The aura seemed to have returned to its original state, but it was so powerful that it made everyone tremble. Senluo looked up angrily at the sky. His gaze was so powerful that it could destroy the galaxy. More than 40,000 12 Nirvana immortal treasures that hit his body were all turned into dust by the rebounding force. He stepped on the galaxy and smiled coldly at the Shin Space Emperor. The Shin Space Emperor looked at Senluo in disbelief. He could not believe the scene in front of him. The Genesis Saint ring. How could this item appear behind Senluo? He did not believe it. In the next instant, the Creation Pagoda hovered above the Shin Space Emperor's head to protect him. Riding a golden cloud, his body turned into a golden rainbow that shot toward Senluo. He wanted to destroy Senluo's fake Genesis Saint ring. Shin Space Emperor, wait, the Void Emperor cried out in shock. However, he could not stop the Shin Space Emperor's rainbow. Behind the Shin Space Emperor, a gigantic golden emperor's shadow gradually appeared. In front of the emperor's shadow, Senluo was so small. However, the Shin Space Emperor suddenly stopped tens of thousands of feet away from Senluo. The emperor's shadow appeared in front of Senluo in an instant. It lifted its foot and stepped on Senluo. Its eyes were filled with disdain and contempt. That was the emperor's instinctive emotion. He looked down on Senluo. The power of this step was enough to severely injure a celestial king and instantly kill a celestial prime. However, Senluo's expression did not change. His eyes were as cold as ice. He lifted the sky with one hand and casually received the emperor's step. With one hand, he lifted Shin Space Emperor's golden foot that was even larger than the galaxy. It was as if he was holding up the entire galaxy. In the next instant, a sharp murderous intent rose in Senluo's eyes. Senluo pressed his 5 fingers together, and an indescribable force immediately rushed towards Shin Space Emperor's giant foot. In an instant, the Emperor's shadow was crushed into dust. The Emperor's shadow collapsed, and even the Shin Space Emperor himself felt a hole in his chest. He coughed out blood. A low grunt immediately came out of the Shin Space Emperor's mouth. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. With a flip of his hand, a green gold treasure immediately shot out from the Creation Pagoda above his head. It was an awl that was made from beast bones. Its aura was extremely restrained, but it seemed to contain a sharpness that could pierce through anything. The Shin Space Emperor pointed and the green gold bone all immediately pierced the space between Sen Luo's eyebrows. However, Sen Luo only let out a disdainful grunt. Insignificant tricks. Sen Luo grabbed out with his large hand. Before the green gold bone all could get close to him, it was destroyed by Sen Luo and turned into dust. The Shin Space Emperor's eyes were filled with shock again. Immediately, 3,000 wisps of Emperor's aura appeared around him. The Emperor's aura covered his entire body and turned into a golden divine flame. It was as if he had turned into a man of fire. With a shake of the pagoda in his hand, it changed into a golden divine spear. 45 million years ago, the Shin Space Emperor had relied on a divine spear that had been infused with Emperor's aura to severely injure Sen Luo. Today, he wanted to use the same trick again. Thick disdain and anger flashed in Sen Luo's eyes. He was different from back then. He was no longer the same. This time, he had come prepared. This time, he wanted to make all those who had wronged Xian Yu pay with their blood. He also took a big step forward. In an instant, his right arm was covered with reincarnation power. Unafraid of the sharpness of the spear, he met the Shin Space Emperor's golden flame divine spear head-on. He raised his hand and punched out. It was obvious that the divine spear was sharper and that Sen Luo's fist bone was weaker. However, after this clash, the situation was beyond the Shin Space Emperor's expectations. A wave of reincarnation power that could destroy everything immediately flowed along Sen Luo's fist bone and spread throughout the body of the golden flame spear. In an instant, the entire golden flame spear turned into dust and dissipated. The weathering was not only caused by the flow of time. Instead, it was caused by the reincarnation's erosion. The Shin Space Emperor's consciousness seemed to freeze at this moment. The golden flames that were burning on his body were extinguished at this moment. A violent force traveled from his arm to his chest. Before the Shin Space Emperor could react, he was already heavily injured by Sen Luo's punch. He spat out blood and retreated. A dignified 8th Tribulation Celestial Emperor was actually unable to block a single punch from Sen Luo. Sen Luo closed in once again. In an instant, he landed hundreds and thousands of punches, shattering the golden armor on his body and creating numerous bloody holes on his body. The Shin Space Emperor was beaten to the point that he no longer looked human. His primordial spirit was also unprecedentedly weak. At this moment, the Shin Space Emperor was extremely terrified. In front of Sen Luo, this was the first time he had no power to resist. The Sen Luo at this moment had used the reincarnation power and possessed the Origin Saint Ring. Even the 9th Tribulation Celestial Emperor might not be able to defeat Sen Luo. At this moment, the Shin Space Emperor actually had a feeling that he was on the verge of death. This feeling had rarely appeared in his long life. This Origin Saint Ring is actually not fake. This Sen Luo is actually so powerful. This thought grew wildly in the Shin Space Emperor's heart. The injuries on his body also became more and more serious. The Shin Void cultivators looked at the battle in front of them in shock. They found it hard to believe that the Shin Space Emperor, one of the two divine Void Emperors, would actually be beaten like a dog and be unable to fight back. Was this still the powerful Shin Space Emperor that they knew? The 8th Tribulation Celestial Emperor was actually being beaten up one-sidedly by someone. Sen Luo's fist radiance was ruthless and forced the Shin Space Emperor to retreat. He then flipped his hand and summoned the Chang'an axe to destroy the physical body of the Shin Space Emperor. Suddenly, he felt a sharp aura slashing towards his back. Sen Luo could not help but frown. He gave up on the idea of continuing to attack the Shin Space Emperor. With a shake of his body, he disappeared from his original spot. It was the Void Emperor who saw that the Shin Space Emperor was in danger and had no choice but to forcefully take action. He took out his Dao soldier and saved the Shin Space Emperor. Sen Luo appeared at the side. He lifted his gaze and glanced coldly at the Void Emperor and the severely injured Shin Space Emperor. Among the hundreds and thousands of punches, it was not that he did not have the ability to kill the Shin Space Emperor. It was a pity that the Shin Space Emperor's cultivation realm was too high. If he wanted to kill the Shin Space Emperor, he would almost exhaust the remaining power of time in his body. The gains did not make up for the losses. Thank you. Cough cough cough. As the Shin Space Emperor coughed out blood, he stepped on the golden cloud and retreated to the side of the Void Emperor. He still looked fearful. Why are you thanking me? Let's attack together and take down this evil person. The Void Emperor sighed. He held an illusory black light in his hand. It was unknown what kind of weapon it was. He stepped on the silver dragon soul and charged towards Sun Luo. On the other side, the Shin Space Emperor suppressed his emotions and swallowed a medicinal pill to forcefully stabilize his severe injuries. He clenched his teeth and followed closely behind the Void Emperor to attack Sun Luo. At this moment, the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor joined forces. They could even fight against the Nine Tribulations' immortal Emperor. Sun Luo frowned. He raised his hand and punched his chest heavily. He coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood and forcefully activated the secret technique. To him, unless he exhausted the power of time in the quicksand, he could forget about killing the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor. The limited power of time had to be used wisely. He could not waste it here. Hence, he could only use the method of surrounding the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor. In the Milky Way where he had nowhere to stand, a huge black hole formed by the power of void suddenly appeared. The black hole appeared under Sun Luo's feet and extended into the distance rapidly. This black hole was Sun Luo's most proficient technique, Burial of the Milky Way. Burial of the Milky Way. Although the attack range of this technique is wide, its power is not strong enough to seriously injure an immortal emperor. It seems that you want to use the same trick again and trap the two of us with this technique. Unfortunately, the two of us were careless last time and were trapped by your dark prison technique. This time, we will not be trapped by your burial of the Milky Way. The Void Emperor shook his head and continued to rush forward. He did not care about the black hole under his feet. The Shin Space Emperor's eyes narrowed. He also did not fear this technique. The suction force of the black hole was not strong. With the strength of the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor, it was not strange that they did not fear this technique. Sun Luo smiled strangely. He was using the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor's underestimation of him. Suddenly, the word Lang Lang came out of his mouth. Second burial. As soon as he said this, black blood suddenly flowed out of Sun Luo's left eye. Outside the black hole, between the Milky Way, a second, even larger black hole appeared and contained the small black hole. The two black holes overlapped and the suction force multiplied. It was as if everything within Sun Luo's sight was sucked into the black hole. The appearance of the second black hole was far beyond the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor's expectations. Before the two emperors could react, Sun Luo coldly said. Third burial. Fourth burial. Fifth burial. When the 5 black holes overlapped, the suction force produced far surpassed the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor's imagination. Although the Void Emperor also cultivated the Void Scripture, he did not know that the Star River burial technique could be used like this. The 5th burial was Sun Luo's current limit. Without the help of the Genesis Sacred Ring, he would not have been able to evolve this technique to this level. Even with the help of the Genesis Sacred Ring, he had received a heavy backlash from using this technique. His limbs and bones were all damaged. Not good. The Void Emperor's complexion was ugly. The silver dragon soul beneath his feet was sucked into the 5-layered black hole. The Shin Space Emperor was heavily wounded and he was not as skilled in the Void technique as the Void Emperor. He was not able to resist the suction force of this technique and was directly sucked into the black hole. Sen Luo clenched his teeth and swallowed the sweet blood in his throat. He lifted a foot and the black hole closed. Like this, the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor were trapped once more. The Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor were shocked. They could not believe that Sen Luo alone had trapped the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor. If the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor did not escape, they did not know who else in the East Ocean Star region could stop Sen Luo. Sen Luo's divine sense spread out crazily, sweeping through the entire East Ocean Star region. Killing intent rose in his eyes. His figure flickered and he turned into a streak of light that charged through the Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor. The Shin Space Emperor and the Shin Space Emperor who tried to stop him were all killed by him. His light was too fast, so fast that almost no one could catch up to him, see him clearly, and block him. The two Shin Space Immortal Sovereigns gritted their teeth and tried to block Sen Luo's light. Sen Luo sneered. His light did not slow down, and he directly charged toward the two Immortal Sovereigns. Before the two Immortal Kings could react, they were hit by Sen Luo's light. They vomited blood and were sent flying. Sen Luo's hands tore apart the bodies of the two Immortal Sovereigns, leaving behind their primordial spirits to use the Soul Blast technique. The hundreds of thousands of Shin Space Emperor cultivators formed a large formation in an attempt to slightly stop Sen Luo. Sen Luo sneered disdainfully. He lifted a hand and pointed forward. The bodies of the hundreds of thousands of Shin Space Emperor cultivators began to corrode and decay. After their bodies were destroyed, only their primordial spirits remained. They tried to flee in all directions, but Sen Luo collected them all. There was no one left alive. There were only a small number of Shin Space Emperor cultivators lying in ambush in the East Ocean Star region. Most of the powerhouses were waiting for Sen Luo's arrival on East Ocean Star region. The Genesis Sacred Ring could not be maintained for a long time, so Sen Luo temporarily put it away. He withdrew his shocking aura and quietly flew away. In just a few breaths of time, he arrived outside of East Ocean Star region. The news of the Shin Space Emperor and Shin Space Emperor's defeat had yet to reach this place. When Sen Luo arrived on East Ocean Star region, almost no one knew that he had arrived. According to what the Shin Space Emperor and Shin Space Emperor knew, the Shin Space Emperor and Shin Space Emperor should have intercepted Sen Luo outside of East Ocean Star region. Who would have thought that Limitless would be able to trap the Divine Void Emperor duo all by himself and kill off all the Divine Void cultivators who had ambushed him? Then, he quietly arrived at the East Sea Star. East Sea Star was the main star of the East Sea Star field, but there were two other stars around it. They were the two secret locations of the Godly Void Pavilion, as well as the two forbidden palaces of the Immortal Emperor. One of them had a divine tomb built on it, which was called the Divine Space Star, the other had a heavenly prison, which was called the Void Star. Sen Luo's target was the Sky Prison, but he did not look at the Void Star first. Instead, he looked in the direction of the Divine Space Star. His gaze was filled with recollection and self-blame. Suddenly, he closed his eyes and knelt down in the void. They were kneeling in the direction of the tomb of the God of Sin. The world would not understand why Sen Luo was kneeling. Only on the Divine Space Star, a blind old man who was sweeping the floor seemed to have sensed Sen Luo's kneeling. However, his face was filled with sadness and he forcefully retracted his foot that was about to take a step forward. No one stopped him during this process. A long time later, Sen Luo stood up, and his gaze was resolute as he looked toward Star Void and sent a voice transmission. Disciple has returned this time. 3 people must die, and 1 bell must be destroyed. I hope Master will not stop me. After this matter is over, Disciple will give Master an explanation. After saying that, Sen Luo's figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. He appeared on the Void Star and walked towards the heavenly prison step by step. On the main star of East Sea Star, there were only a few experts guarding it. On the Divine Space Star, there were not many experts either. The experts of the godly Void Pavilion mostly cultivated on the Void Star. Void Star, Heavenly Prison. It was a door of light with lightning intertwining. On the other side of the door of light, it led to a space called the Heavenly Prison. The Heavenly Prison was divided into two realms. One was called the Heaven Realm. The Heaven-Earth Spirit Chi there was 10 times more than the outside world. It was the best place for secluded cultivation. Most of the old monsters of the godly Void Pavilion liked to seclude themselves in the Heaven Realm. The experts of the immemorial era almost always cultivated there. Most of the true immortal forces also built their clans in the Heaven Realm. The other realm was called the Prison Realm. It was the place where the serious criminals of the Eastern Sky were imprisoned. Senluo had been imprisoned in the Prison Realm before. This time, Senluo's destination was naturally not the Prison Realm. His destination was the Heaven Realm. To be more precise, it was the bell offering platform in the Heaven Realm. Seeing that Senluo did not go to the East Sea Star region to carry out a large-scale massacre, the little demoness who was in the 9th star felt relieved. The declining Shao clan did not have the qualification to stay in the Heaven Realm. They did not even have the qualification to stay in the East Sea Star region. The current Shao clan was built in the outer star region of the East Sea Star region. The cultivation level of the members of the Shao clan was low. None of them participated in the ambush of Senluo. Naturally, they did not suffer any losses. This time, the little demoness heaved a sigh of relief when Senluo's war did not reach the Shao clan. However, when she saw Senluo invading outside the heavenly prison, she still felt a little concerned as the young pavilion lord of the godly Void Pavilion. Ning Fan, on the other hand, had other thoughts in his mind. He could not understand why Senluo knelt down. Who is Senluo kneeling to? Outside the heavenly prison lightning door, groups of patrolling cultivators were already killed by Senluo before they could even notice him. Senluo slowly stepped into the lightning door. There were 2 paths of light inside the lightning door. One of the paths of light led to the prison realm. All the gates of the prison were currently sealed. Only the Void Emperor had the token to pass through. The other path of light led to the heavenly realm, but it was passable. Senluo walked on the path of light step by step. The coldness in his eyes became brighter and brighter. That year, he had also walked on this path of light. However, he was powerless to change anything. Step by step, he crushed his memories. Next, he stepped into the entrance of the Heaven Realm. Senluo's spirit sense spread out crazily. All of a sudden, it shocked countless divine Void Realm old monsters who were in seclusion in the Heaven Realm. Before anyone could react, he had already appeared below the altar of the bell. He glanced at the ancient bell on the high platform of the 9th-floored Yuan Hill. Then, he sneered at the group of guards who were rushing towards him. At first, the guards only thought that someone had trespassed into the altar of the bell. When they saw the appearance of the intruder, all of them were scared out of their wits. Senluo Immortal King. Not good. He actually bypassed the encirclement of the Divine Void Emperor and sneaked into this place. Quickly send a message to the 2 emperors and ask for reinforcements. Don't panic. Old Devil Senluo is nothing. This old man will act on behalf of the 2 emperors and take him down. Just when the guards were panicking, an extremely arrogant voice that carried the aura force of the 4th eternal tribulation came from afar. Before the voice stopped, a bright yellow flying sword suddenly pierced through the air and slashed towards Senluo's head. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.